Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, this is the one, the only Broke Boy Sports Podcast. I'm Ashton G. Lewis. He's Martin Pate. There's a lot of football to talk about, and we should just get right into it. It's week 7, Martin, and I'm starting to think we know exactly what's going on. As we have every single week of the NFL season, we know exactly what's going to happen. So,
There we go. I'm back up and running. I've got a big grin on my face to everybody that's tuned in on twitch.tv/Broke Boy Sports and on the YouTube page, Broke Boy Sports Podcast. Go ahead and give it a search, Ashton. We had some great football games this past weekend. Our two top teams for the NFC Super Bowl went head to head. We're going to get into that in the breakdown of
don't
the
say
action first.
our. Don't say
No, our
our.
two picks. You picked the Seahawks. I picked the
Okay,
Cardinals.
I thought you were saying.
No,
I
no,
thought you were
no, no,
trying
no.
to
I'm not trying to put
imply
words.
that
I'm not.
I too
No, no,
believe the Cardinals are
no,
good
no,
too.
Ashton, you have been anti-Cardinals from the get-go. I, of course, have been the conductor of the fucking train that is the Arizona Cardinals hype through 7 weeks. But first, we got to give a shout out to our friends over at Thrive Fantasy. If you got to take part in some DFS on Thursday Night Football last week between the Giants and the Eagles, you could have bet over/under on Daniel Jones, 237.5 passing yards, Carson Wentz, 2.5 passing touchdowns plus interceptions combined. But if you want to get in on the action, you can download Thrive Fantasy. Use the code BROKEBOY. $20 down will get you $20 straight back. They've also got a plethora of other bonuses to help you get in on some of the fantasy action. And it's not just a DFS site. This is all about the props, Ashton. You and I watched the big game. You and I are interested in who's going to do what. And you're not worried. You're not worried so much about getting decimal points from players in normal fantasy. This one, you're just trying to figure out who's going to do better. You're going to bet the over, bet the under. Some people out there, they only bet the over, Ashton, and some people out there, they're conservative and only bet the under. But go ahead and download Thrive
Which, by
Fantasy.
the way, if you're one of those people, this year is like the only year. If you're betting the under, you're stupid because the over is hit like 90% of the time this season. So whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have fun? Root for chaos, guys, on Thrive Fantasy.
I love me some chaos, Ashton. Our good friend Frosty Nugs, he's even been getting in on some of the action, checking out some of the props. He's got an entire, Excel spreadsheet.
You're a good friend. You're a good friend.
Your arch nemesis,
my
good friend. Yeah. He's got a spreadsheet of every team every week, their points scored. He's getting really into it, and he's really enjoying it. So go ahead, get in on the Thrive Fantasy action. Code BROKEBOY. Ashton, you and I and a couple of our friends and people we know are in a fantasy football league together. It's been 7 weeks in.
And some of our arch nemesis as well.
Some interesting matchups this past week. At one point, I thought we were down fantasy number-wise in week 7, but then
so, Martin,
a couple of the games came back and helped.
Can I do something here real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So, there's a flurry of things that happened to multiple fantasy teams of mine, in particular in the mediocre fantasy football league. It went off the rails pretty badly. And I will say this, if you're one of the 2 people who lost to me because I went like 2-6 this week, if you're one of the 2 people who lost to me, you should stop playing fantasy football because Martin, the 2 games that I won, the starting quarterback that I had in, one was Cam Newton, who had negative 0.18 points in that league. Nice. And the other one was Gardner Minshew. And I had Aaron Jones in both of those leagues.
Oh my God.
Those 2, whoever I lost to this week, if you lost to me this week, you don't deserve to play fantasy football anymore. Anyway, go ahead.
Ashton, I got to play what was the first ranked team going into last week in the TB12 Brady Nears, but thankfully I had Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, who just so happened to be playing the Texans defense. And so I basically could have started nobody else and still would have had I would have only lost by like 10 or 20 points or something like that without starting any other offense. Right. Yeah, that's how much they popped off this week. You went up against Judge Judy. You guys almost have a similar record. He's 1 win ahead of you. He actually had his defense score the most points. He had Tom Brady go off for 40.55 points and still ended up losing in that league. Looking around the other games in the league, we had a couple of close ones actually. We had the two Kevins playing against each other, and Kevin Oakley, who joined us in the chat last week on twitch.tv/WorkBoy Sports. He's now in sole possession of first place, Ashton. He beat the other Kevin in our league 104.1 to 102.35. He, of course, had Russell Wilson leading the helm. The other Kevin had a nice day by, was it James Robinson for the Jaguars? Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson. Frosty Nugs lost another one, so there's a little bit of a shining light for
By
you,
the way,
Ashton.
Frosty Nugs team is bad because I didn't play Aaron Jones last week when he had like 30 something points, and Frosty Nugs lost. He won by 5. He won by 5.
Yeah,
so he should have lost.
His team is up and down. It's like a roller coaster for him this year. But yeah, that's that league. Other leagues, Ashton. I actually went 3-0 across the board, and at the 3 fantasy leagues that I'm in. I went, just a quick story. I went into my main money league down 81 points, and I had Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Buda Baker, Bobby Wagner, and Zane Gonzalez all to play on Sunday Night Football.
All the guys who dominated in that game.
Yeah, like it was.
Buda had 14 touchdowns. He had 14 tackles, right?
Yeah, 14 tackles. He had the interception. I don't know if he had a sack or not. I don't think he was one of the ones that got in on the sacks. Bobby Wagner. So here's the thing. Somebody, when the Seattle had their bye week 2 weeks ago, right? Week 6. The guy dropped Bobby Wagner.
Big mistake. Never dropped the best middle linebacker in the league.
That's what I'm saying. I spent $40 on him and picked him up, and now he's on my team for the rest of the year. Him and Buda Baker both on the squad, so I'm going to be getting some serious help from my IDP. Zane Gonzalez.
And he's already passed his bye week.
Yeah, exactly. So. That's what I'm saying. Like, going forward, I don't have to, like, worry about it. Buda Baker is on a bye this week. But I've got Patrick Queen. That's the thing. I've got. I'm set at IDP right now. And
do you have Vince Williams?
No, I got Buda Baker. This guy named Jeremy Chin, Carolina safety. Yeah. He's actually like an IDP stud, at least for a safety. Bobby Wagner and then Patrick Queen, who was on bye. So
I wonder if anybody got Minka yet. Who are the best available safeties in your league? Let's see how deep this is. By the way, this is IDP talk because IDP is real fantasy football, individual defensive players. So yeah.
Available. The best safety available is a guy named Logan Ryan.
Oh yeah, Logan Ryan for the Tennessee Titans.
Oh wait, no, or Josh Jones, but he's on a bye this week, so somebody just dropped him. Eddie Jackson.
Eddie Jackson is like.
Yeah, it's 16.5 points last week.
Yeah, he doesn't get thrown to for the vast majority. He's their best. He's one of their best secondary players, to be honest, man. By the way, if you follow Eddie Jackson on Instagram, I do not follow him, but I have a burner account where I just follow like basically every pro athlete under the sun, so I don't have to blow up my main Instagram account, which is the Ashton Forever. But Eddie Jackson's gym is like a club, like it's like a nightclub.
Wow.
Like it literally has. Lighting like a nightclub. You should go check it out. Anyway, it's literally got like strobe lights, color lights, and everything like that. It's dark in there and everything, and it's got the music blasting. It feels like it's a nightclub, which, by the way, terrible setting to lift in, because if you're trying to see the weight that you're lifting and you need to know if it's even, sometimes you need like light, like proper lighting and everything. But hey, we're here for a good time, not a long time, guys.
These are Jordan Pryor, but he's just got picked up. So
he's also not good.
Yeah, he's not good, but he gets fantasy points because he plays for the Buffalo Bills. But
like Paul Posluszny, back in the day, Paul Posluszny was the OG of the fantasy linebackers, bro.
Like currently, right now in this league, Ashton, the number 1 IDP player overall, Blake Martinez. Blake Martinez.
Oh yeah,
Zach Cunningham's third.
Yeah, Blake is Blake's top 5. He's been top 5 in tackles for like the last 2 years or 3 years with the Packers, and now he's with the Giants, right? So he's actually seeing even more time on the field because he's with the Giants. So the
team that can't pick up first downs. But yeah, I went into that game down 81 points, Ashton, and ended up winning it by 20. That's how just crazy of a performance the Cardinals and Bobby Wagner had, and we're gonna
And
get
we'll
into
talk
that.
about it.
Yeah, we're
We'll
gonna
talk
talk
about
about
it when we
that in
get
a
into
minute.
it.
You said you went 2-6. So let's.
By the way, the pick'em. So let me
Yeah, I
let
was
me
about to
explain
get
what
to.
happened here.
Let's get to the pick'em because I was picking some underdogs to say the least going for week
No,
7.
you got an easy bye week here because most of my games didn't get in. So the early round games
Oh,
I didn't lock them in, so I got them all wrong technically.
oh
So
damn.
I couldn't get points from it. So that's why you got like such a. I'm assuming you got a massive bump out of it.
Yeah.
But I picked everything past the first round of games. So yeah, there's a freebie, guys.
Yeah.
And you know what I did this year? I turned off that setting where it drops your worst week
Mm,
so you can stay competitive basically.
hmm.
So yeah, now I got to fight back. I got to fight out of the hole, guys. I got to go perfect. Which
Yeah.
you know, if you pay attention to this show, not too difficult for you, boy.
But
See,
Ted Wardio and I we're now tied at the top of the pick'em ladder. Him and I are just like going back and forth. Ashton, he'll have a good week. I'll have a better week the next week, and like vice versa.
you let Teddy tell it. He doesn't know anything about football, so
We're both at 69% right now, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, I went a bunch of underdogs and upsets. Um, the Giants lost by 1. The Bengals lost by 3. And the Panthers lost by 3. And then 2 other ones, the Patriots and the Bears. Uh, when we get to that game, Ashton, can we pat each other on the, or not pat each other, but can we give it like, can we get a little pat, pat ourselves on the back? Because we
sorry,
literally
I'm
called out.
sanitizing my
No, it's all
hands
good.
like you motherfuckers
We,
should. So
we literally like when we get to the Bears Rams games of all the games this past week. I think that's the. I mean, obviously the Arizona one I got right, but like I'm talking about combined. I think that's the one we hit the nail on the fucking head, even though we both picked the Bears, because we literally we both said if it's more than a like 3 to 7 point game, the Rams are winning it, and if it's less than that, it's gonna be the Bears, and it literally played out how you and I were talking. But the pick'em, um, another decent week for me, 9 points, I'll take it. Um, you got well, you said you missed about half of the game, so that's
yeah,
unfortunate in
you
there.
can just pretend like I didn't participate this
Yeah,
week. So
so
everything I got wrong, I think, except like 2 games.
yeah. So
So yeah.
that's the pick'em update. Let's move right along, Ashton. We've got the rookie rollout here. Um,
Hold
we're
on,
almost
I
in
almost got it.
we're almost in week 7 now. So like we've kind of named all of the rookies that have been kind of overperforming or getting their shot. For me, I guess I've got to give the shout out to Justin Herbert. Um,
Air Bear.
Yeah, Justin Abe Herbert. Until we get an actual nickname, that's what we're going with. So far this season, Ashton, an 81.4 QBR. Not really complete. His completion percentage is kind of down. You and I like anything above 70. Right now, he's at 62.8. Oh wait, no, that's just sorry. That was just last week against the Chargers. Right now, he's actually at 67.4% completion percentage. He's got 1,542 passing yards so far, which I believe I read somewhere that he's actually thrown the ball and has more yards than Joe Burrow, and everyone's going crazy about Joe Burrow's stats. So that's an interesting one. 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for the rookie, and of course gets his first
Well,
win for the
okay, so
Chargers.
we could talk about that right now, right? Like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are in far different situations. Like if
Yeah.
so, they're Joe Burrow's in a far worse situation
Hmm.
than Justin Herbert is. Like Justin Herbert to start his career had one of the best running backs in the NFL, at least a top 20 running back in the NFL. He had he has Mike Williams, who's a big play wide receiver. He has Keenan Allen, who's one of the best wide receivers overall in the NFL. And then Hunter Henry coming back from his injuries and everything like that, from his ACL injury, very big tight end threat. He's one of the few tight ends that you can consistently count on to be able to do something in the NFL. But yeah, to try and pretend that they're in the same situation is not even close to true. And that's why people, I feel like, are flipping out about Joe Burrow, because he's making the best out of the absolute
Yeah.
worst situation. And Justin Herbert, and for whatever, because we don't even blame Justin Herbert for the losses that he's taking, because we know it's the Chargers and that's just kind of how they are. But the fact of the matter is, If they didn't have the reputation of being the Chargers, you would be highly skeptical of Justin Herbert, despite like all of his yards and all of his success and everything like that. Him not being able to win games against teams who are not like overwhelmingly
Yeah.
just better than their team. You know what I mean? Like they were in that Saints game and still lost it. So, but we can talk about that some other time. I do have one for rookie rollout here, Martin. If you were done
Yep.
talking about Air Bear,
Yep.
okay.
Just wanted to quickly mention
Cornerback,
that he got his first win.
5'11" cornerback from Pitt, Dane Jackson for the Buffalo Bills. It took me a while to dust this one up. I had it saved away, but he had the third highest PFF grade in for the Buffalo Bills versus the Jets. And if you listen to anybody who covers the Jets, they would say one of the only bright spots is their wide receiver core. And that was Dane Jackson's first career game as a in the NFL, and he came out with like a 75 overall grade, which is really good. So yeah, just sometimes the rookie rollout comes from different angles, man. It's not the dude who's out here blowing it up in front of everybody. Sometimes it's the little things that started off that become big things. But yeah, another good performance from the secondary of the Buffalo Bills, despite everything else on their defense not looking all that great. We're also going to talk about the Bills in case you haven't guessed it. We're going to be talking about every single team for Week 7 of the NFL season. Some teams gonna be lining up to get clowned out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes,
We were this
we'll
close,
Ashton.
We were this close. We were this close. That's the tease right there. We were this close to making this a Buffalo Bills. Let's just rag on the Bills, make fun of the Bills entire show. But Ashton, you mentioned it, a couple of words you said a minute ago was blowing up. We're moving on to the nuke, the fantasy nuke, and that's the player who just absolutely blew up this past week. Either won your league or won your team, won a game for your team in a league, or potentially you went up against him and almost definitely lost. And I have a very unique story about what Tyler Lockett did, Ashton. Of course, in that Arizona Seattle game, he had 20 targets, 15 receptions, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Depending what league you played in, Ashton, that's over 50 points for a wide receiver. And I mean, at one point, every time Russell Wilson was putting the ball up, it was fine in Tyler Lockett's hands. He had that catch at the very first play of the game against Patrick Peterson. Bump and run coverage all the way down the field and still just right in the breadbasket. And that kind of almost set the tone for Tyler Lockett for all 4 quarters and overtime.
Yeah, man, Tyler Lockett, and I know, of course, everybody's been talking about DK Metcalf because he looks the part in terms of like absolutely dynamic, amazing type wide receiver. But Tyler Lockett is one of the guys who, of course, very similar to his quarterback, very similar to the opposing quarterback that he went up against. They don't like have settings or programmings for the kind of guys that you're talking about. The level of special that Tyler Lockett is really sometimes indescribable when it comes to his what he's worth to the Seattle Seahawks offense as the true number 1 wide receiver. For as much as y'all want to talk about DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett is deadlier than DK Metcalf, and in my opinion, because he's dangerous at every single facet, every single portion of the field. But yeah, it was a bad time if you started Tyler Lockett and you played against him. Luckily, I drafted him and Russell Wilson, so I got the double
nice.
dip. Exactly. So yeah, Tyler Lockett is like Tyler Lockett and Keenan Allen are like my sleeper wide receivers because no matter what happens, they are always going to be the number 1 option on their team. Yeah. And DK Metcalf is, of course, top 5 in the NFL when it comes to wide receiver yards and everything like that. But nonetheless, Tyler Lockett, another amazing game. And you want to talk about a game of inches, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on when we mention Cam Newton and the New England Patriots. That was a game that like both of his catches were a game of inches, and when it comes to getting those touchdowns, man, and it shows. And for Russell Wilson to be able to hit a window that small against one of the best top 5 corner in the NFL, and Patrick Peterson is on a whole nother level, and it shows just how special both of those guys are, and it also shows how special Patrick Peterson is because to beat him, you had to throw it where literally only Tyler Lockett could catch it. Anyway, moving on. Shout out to Tyler Lockett. Yeah, doing it out there for the short kings everywhere.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just want to mention real quick, Ashton. So in going back to my main money league, we had past 2 weeks on these Tuesday episodes. I've told you about a little bit of controversy. I actually wasn't involved in it this time, so I was enjoying this. So okay, the guy who had Lamar Jackson, who was obviously on a bye this past week.
The corner or the quarterback?
Quarterback, Lamar Jackson.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So he had a bye this week. He took Lamar Jackson out. He's had Sterling Shepard in his IR for however long Sterling Shepard has been out. I think that's like what, since the start of the season. Yeah, start of the season, or since week 3, I guess. So he's been on IR since week 3. 6 hours before kickoff, the Giants announced that they're probably going to activate Sterling Shepard. Then an hour and a half before kickoff, they officially activate him. The guy whose problem this is didn't get the message, he says, and didn't realize that he couldn't move Sterling Shepard out of the IR slot after his game had locked in. And so couldn't make, after the Giants game started, couldn't make a roster move to replace Lamar Jackson, and tried to play the card of, hey, I made a mistake, let me change my roster and get a quarterback. And so the league decided, like, he actually made two. His argument was he was waiting till Sunday to pick up a quarterback, but he made 2 other transactions on Wednesday. Picked up a kicker and picked up Antonio Brown after the Antonio Brown news broke. So he made 2 transactions where he could have picked up a quarterback, right? And so the league decided that since he made those transactions, we weren't going to allow him to fix his roster. So he went into this matchup without a quarterback. He has Tyler Lockett on his team, and he ended up winning by 10 points without starting a quarterback. Like, that's like
Justice.
Justice. He had the Seahawks defense, which got negative points. He had James White that had 0 points, had no fucking quarterback at all, and ended up winning by 10 points in the league, courtesy of Tyler Lockett's 45 points. Like, that's just how like the fantasy gods just. I mean, also, by the way, the commissioner, like the main commissioner of the league, is the guy he was playing against and the one who had the final say against, like, no, you can't get a quarterback. And so, dude, it was just like, it was one of those moments where, like, halfway through the game, like before his last touchdown, we were texting in the group chat, like, yo, if Tyler Lockett gets one more touchdown, Kevin is about to win without starting a quarterback, and Mike will lose. And it was just one of those moments where, like, everybody's just like laughing at Mike and like can't believe what's about to happen. And then he catches that last touchdown, and it was great, dude. That's how that right there is literally the definition of the fantasy nuke for us. Like, no quarterback, negative
Didn't
points from
even-
your defense.
You could do everything wrong, but the nuke will wipe the world clean.
Just a bomb, dude. Just literally just dropped a bomb on this entire matchup, and like, oh my god, if I was on the losing end of that, I would like you said, if the people that lost to you and like, if I was Mike right now, I would just give up on the season. Like, you just can't continue going after losing to somebody that's not starting a quarterback. But Ashton, that's the fantasy nuke. Tyler Lockett. We move on to our next segment before we get into the full Week 7 breakdown, and that, of course, is the big hurt in this list. It's got a couple of names on it, buddy. We lost a couple of brothers this past week. It started off with Odell Beckham Jr., a torn ACL, going to be out for the season. Ashton, if you're a conspiracy theorist,
did you see the play?
Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, as a conspiracy theorist, you could probably say, like, he's not even hurt and he just didn't want to play anymore. And it's shitty to say. He probably did fuck up his knee, but like, watching the play, he didn't
more on the best
on the
Browns
fucking
team in 20
terrible
years.
ass Browns. Yeah, like, why?
You
Like, I don't know.
keep saying terrible. They are literally 5-2.
Yeah, they've beaten the Bengals twice. Come on.
I'm
joking. I'm joking about not wanting to play. It's just one of those things.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
I was saying,
you
if you're a
you get
conspiracy
too deep
theorist.
into NFL Twitter, and then you start like talking about dumb things like guys not wanting to play for teams that are winning football games, and also like guys that don't want to play for teams that are going out of their way to make sure that you are getting the ball. You know what I mean? Like, they're designing things specifically so that Odell can get the ball. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a weird injury. Interception, badly thrown ball. He's coming back, makes a tackle, and tears his ACL in the process. Landon Collins, he's torn his Achilles. He's out for the season. D.D. Westbrook tore his ACL. He's out for the season. Now we get to the part of the show where everybody and their mother's ankles got sprained this past week, Ashton. Deshaun Jackson, high ankle sprain. He's on the IR, 6 to 8 weeks. He's possibly done for the season, and there's even some reports that he's debating about retiring, which
Yeah, man,
you'd hate to see
he's
a
been
great
trying to
go
play
like that.
for he's been trying to play for 2 years for the Eagles, and I think he's played like a grand total of like 5 games.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's bad.
it's an unfortunate situation. Um, Jeff Wilson Jr. He has a high ankle sprain. I haven't seen an update on how long he may be out, but the X-rays came back today negative, which is actually a good sign. You want X-rays to be negative when you go into the doctor. Virgil Green, he has an ankle injury. X-rays also came back negative for him, but the Chargers believe he's going to be put on IR. I didn't see if it was the season-ending IR, or if it was short-term IR, but um, a name to keep eye out. Also, Kenyon Drake. He tore a ligament in his ankle in the Seahawks Cardinals game. He's out 3 to 4 weeks. Heads up if you're a fantasy player and you've got Chase Edmonds. If he's available somehow in free agency, you better hope and pray you pick him up because he's gonna pop off. I believe in these next 3 to 4 weeks that Kenyon Drake is out. Andy Dalton, one of the worst hits you'll probably see this season. He's out with a concussion. He'll be in the
We can
concussion
talk about that
protocol.
when we get to it.
Yeah, it was a bad one.
It was on Andy. It was Andy's fault.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we can talk about it when we get there.
Brashad Perriman. Uh, these next couple are all concussions. Brashad Perriman, he's in the
God
protocol.
damn, dude.
Philip Lindsay, he's in the protocol. Shaquille Griffin, he's in the protocol. And Keel Harry left the game with a concussion. They haven't provided an update, but I believe the rule in the NFL is if you leave the game with a concussion, you automatically go into the protocol. But
Yeah.
I didn't see anything about him today as we record on Tuesday, October 27th. Debo Samuel, he's got a hamstring injury. The 49ers say he's going to miss at least the next 2 games. Chris Carson, both running backs, both starting running backs in that game, Ashton, came out of it
Yeah.
injured. Mid-foot sprain, he's labeled as week to week. Devontae Freeman, ankle, questionable. Deontay Johnson, dude, this is like the 5th time we've said Deontay Johnson's name in the big hurt. He hurt his ankle. He's questionable.
So to his credit, he plays over the middle, which is the most
Yeah.
dangerous part of the field when you're a wide receiver. So
Yeah. Russell Okung, he hurt his calf. He's a name. There's some
H-Town, hold it
names.
down.
Yeah, exactly. He's some of the names like there's way more people that got hurt than this. Ashton, these are just like the most pressing ones, and I just put Russell Okung's name on there because we Ashton and I used to cover his high school team, the Bush Broncos. And he's from Houston, so gotta give him a little shout out. But those
And he's like one of those big time like he first of all he negotiated his own contract at one point.
Yep.
He negotiated his own contract and like they tried to clown him for it, and then of course now he's making like a shit ton of money. Which by the way, hey media members, here's a freebie. When a player negotiates its own contract, don't ask the opinion of agents who have like a direct motive as to why they want you to write poorly about a player who negotiated his own contract because it's what is it so far? Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, and Russell Okung have negotiated their own contract and done it in prominent fashion, and it's cashed out for all of them.
DeAndre Hopkins, didn't he just do?
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, he had like an advisor or whatever, but he still negotiated his own deal. So yeah, it's hilarious. Anyway, maybe one day we'll learn that. Maybe one day we'll learn as a collective, as a society, that people can be more than one thing at the same time. Just because you're a football player doesn't mean you don't know how to, ask and negotiate for a lot of money. So yeah.
A longer list than last week of injuries, Ashton. The ankle injury, it's so like the amount of ankle injuries that have happened this season. I feel like I need Stephania Bell or one of the other injury people to tell me like, is this par for the course, or are we like above average? Like, where are we numbers wise with the number of just ankle sprains and ankle injuries
overall? Not even ankle sprains, just like injuries in general. Like I'd be interested to see because we're talking about like the 49ers, right? They've been missing multiple members of their secondary for weeks now. And they're calling in practice squad guys to get like legit playing time. Dudes off the, a lot of UDFAs getting called back in the camp. A lot of dudes that really, they're getting moved around. And it's strange to say because the biggest issue is like when you get people who are outside of your team that you showed up to the season with, right? Because I think it's like 63 or 65
Yeah,
because
they
they expanded the
expanded it.
regular
Yeah.
roster.
Yep.
So once you like start picking those guys up, you have to wait 5 days for them to, they're tested every single day. That means on trades, that means on free agency pickups. So like you're getting guys and trying to get them in under the wire so that they can play the week of that game, and they're just not going to be able to. So there's like a huge commodity on like being able to sign as many players as you can to try and anticipate injuries, because that's the big difference between being successful on Sunday, man. Like you got to get guys at the right position, and hopefully it means there's more opportunities for guys who didn't get a shake in training camp and they go out there and they get game checks, which would be nice.
Yeah.
Other than that, I got
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Now we're. This is the part of the show of Tuesday that we care the most about. It's the Week 7 recap. There was a lot of action. 4 teams on bye: Baltimore, Indianapolis, Miami, and Minnesota. Ashton, as has become tradition now, since we are both Texans fans, we're going to kick it off with the Packers and Texans. We'll talk about the Seahawks, Cardinals after that, and then just kind of go through, talk about. We're going to go from the games we care the most about and have the most to say, all the way down to the games that don't really. I mean, what can you really say about some of these games, like the Chiefs, Broncos, and games like that? And then we've of course we've got the 10 things you don't want to know about Week 7. Some of the stats Ashton has been bringing us each and every week of the football season. Shout out to everybody that has been downloading so far. We are. What was it, Ashton? What did you say it was? We're 3
Yeah, we
downloads
were.
away.
Yeah, I'll check it right now. As a matter of fact, just for all the people at home listening, because people love to see you check things and get information while the podcast is going on. That's what people are really here for
Yep.
their entertainment.
Yep.
So yeah, no, we are. Nope, we did it.
We did it.
Yeah, 300 downloads in 3 months. So
There we go. Nice. 100.
yeah, we're
average.
we're at 805 right now, and
Hell yeah.
yeah. So
Shout out to everybody that's been listening. We try our best to put the show out on as many different platforms as possible. Shout out to Howard Beck and some of his fans for tuning in last Thursday on that episode. If you want to catch it, go head over to the YouTube page or Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just look for the title for the show.
I've also
episode 103.
Martin, I've also decided that if they don't do my version of Space Jam 2, I hate that movie. I hate it. Yeah. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, go check out last week's episode. If they don't do my version of Space Jam 2, I'm going to be pretty mad.
Yeah. All right, Ashton. Speaking of pretty mad, Texans fans are really mad right now.
I don't know why. I mean,
this is like I was talking to a couple of my friends. This 35-20 performance, I would consider the worst game they've had all season.
Okay, so Martin, time out. So right off the bat, I come out here and I'm not one for putting on points and taking points off the board. They had a possession, right? At the end of it, right? They had a possession. It was their one turnover the entire game, which, by the way, a fucking gift from God when they can get one, when they only give up one turnover a game, right? Yeah. So they had a turnover that if they had gone down the field and scored, which is possible, they kind of, because the second half they played so much better than they did the first half. They were shut out in the first half of that game, which is similar to what happened in the Steelers game. Similar to what happened in the Steelers game where they were shut out in the second half. But they come out in the second half, they look a lot better. They start playing a lot better, moving the ball up and down the field, and they get one more possession. They fumble the ball away, and it turns over, and it goes back to the Packers, and then they kneel the game out. They score that touchdown. It's 35-27, and we're talking like a totally different type of situation. That's all I'm asking people to think about. They were playing a lot better, and then reality struck. But for the most part, man, like it was a pretty dominant performance from the Green Bay Packers, man. Like there's no way around it. At one point, they were down 21-7. I'm sorry, they were down 21-0 at one point in that game, and run game wasn't working for them. They didn't get like a ton of pressure on Deshaun Watson, and they still were able to go out there and have some excellent coverage. But the fact of the matter is, man, like Martin, like the defense went out there and did what they've done every single week of this season,
which is nothing.
Yeah. So like I don't know why you
bad.
guys are mad. Like I don't get like why you guys are mad. They played against a top 5 offense in the NFL, and the top 5 offense got top 5 results versus a bad defense. As a matter of fact, you should be kind of impressed that it was only 35 points. Yeah, so
you got a point there. I just think this was of all the the bad games that they've had this year, it just it I mean, getting skunked, dude. Like, I mean, you and I both played Madden. We got a whole generation that's grown up on Madden. What happens when you get to 21-0, Ashton?
Yeah. No, like you have
You
to. I
go
mean,
next. You go
it depends.
next.
It depends. It depends. Some households it's different, but
uh,
yeah, you get you get off the sticks when you
yeah, you
get
get off the
down
sticks
21.
immediately. Like 21-0, just go. They need to make a rule like in the NFL when there's some games that are at 21-0 at halftime. Don't even risk injury in the second half. Just
I've always
send
said
every.
that in the NBA. I've
Yeah.
had this theory of like in the NBA, if they should have this thing where like if the other team gets to 7 points and your team has scored zero,
Mm.
the game's over and the other team wins.
Oh yeah.
It would make the beginning of games highly competitive, just as competitive as the back end of games, and also like NBA players would do all kinds of horrible shit to prevent getting skunked at the
Yeah.
beginning of a game. Like they would foul the shit out of you. Like I'm just saying. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad showing from the defense. Wasn't surprised. Devontae Adams had like almost 200 yards receiving. I think he had like 188 or something like that. But yeah, he almost had 200 yards receiving. Aaron Jones did not play in this game,
They
and
didn't need
I
him.
mean that's true. That it showed in the rush game they didn't run the ball all that well, but the fact of the matter is like they didn't have any problems passing the ball, mainly because they passed the ball to the one guy that the Texans knew that they had to stop, and they still couldn't stop him. So
Yeah, it
that
was
lets you know
ridiculous.
everything you needed to know.
It
So
was.
it
It
was
was.
yeah, and they got zero pressure on Aaron Rodgers. I know JJ Watt had like a tackle for loss and a couple of other tackles or whatever, but for the most part, man, like they're not getting up the field, which is interesting to say because the Bengals are trying. I don't know if they're trying to get rid of him or not, but if the Bengals seem like they don't want Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap around anymore. So it'd be interesting to see if the Texans can get one of those guys or maybe both of them in like a really wild ass world.
What would you
Not
get?
via a
What?
trade,
Like what? What do you
not like
trade
via a
for him?
trade or anything. Not via a
Oh, like
trade
if
or
they
anything
cut
like
him?
that, but like yeah, like maybe they cut him or something like that, or maybe like the trades like for a fucking third round pick. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, just trade. Just
um,
trade every pick that they have, dude. Just.
not this year, not this
Yeah,
upcoming
yeah,
year, of course. I mean for like maybe future picks down the road or whatever. But like at the same time, they're not playing them. And it'd be interesting to see if they just end up releasing those guys because Carlos Dunlap is doing everything in his power on
to get out
social
of there.
media to try and get cut. And he can go to any team in the league. And if that's the case, and he might end up playing for Baltimore, who as time goes on, I read an article in the Athletic about this. They got like 5 dudes on their front seven that are free agents at the end of this year.
Really?
So yeah, so this is like it's a big deal because they're either gonna have to, let some dudes walk, or they're gonna have to pay they're gonna have to pay somebody a bunch of money, or let some other dudes walk, or they pay everybody a little bit of money, and we'll see because they just traded for another guy who's a pass rusher in Yannick Ngakoue. But we'll
Yeah.
talk about that when it comes to it on Thursday. Um, we'll also be talking about Khabib on Thursday because Martin got on the train on the last stop. I find that
Yep.
hilarious. But yeah, also if you have some time and you want to listen to a really good podcast, listen to DC and Helwani this week.
That was gonna be my media
talk,
suggestion. For
yeah,
on Thursday.
exactly. It was amazing. It was amazing to hear DC talk about what Khabib went through with the whole toe situation, and then on top of that, you heard the submission part, right? Like
Yeah, you didn't want to
the
hurt him.
part where yeah. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah. That's
God
how
damn
good
it,
he
Khabib.
is. That's
Stop
how
being
good.
so awesome.
That's how good he. Or that's how good he like is. Like he. I mean, I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but
Yeah, he didn't want to hurt Justin Gaethje, so he
Yeah.
decided not to break his arm using an armbar. He instead submitted Justin Gaethje in his final fight with his father's favorite submission, the triangle choke.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was dope.
Yeah, going back to the Packers and Texans game. This one is kind of easy for me. Aaron Rodgers was pissed off after the embarrassing loss the Packers had to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he got to take his frustrations out on one of the worst defenses in the NFL. It there's no denying. I mean, the Cowboys, Jets, Giants, maybe. I mean, the Giants actually have a decent defense. It's their offense that's shit. The Texans' defense is probably top 5 worst in the NFL, and it is what it is. And Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams got to do what, like, one of the frustrating parts about it was seeing how wide open Devontae Adams was. If there's one player on the Packers that you're trying to shut down, especially their wide receivers, like, why are you not double covering him? Why are you just letting him run crossing routes across the field, and the next closest guy is 10 yards away from him? I mean,
and I think that's a product of this season. There's been a heavy emphasis on running zone, and when Aaron Rodgers knows where the zone is, he's really good at timing up to throw right into the seam, right in. And the seams, of course, are the transition points between the zone, and it's usually like it's the point from where if there's a defender in the zone, if you're talking about like linebackers, and each linebacker is responsible for like a 10-yard radius completely around him, and there's two of them. Aaron Rodgers is really good at throwing at the point where they both have to run the furthest away. They both have to run the furthest to get to the ball. And you saw that he had like one touchdown where he threw to Devontae Adams across the field, and Devontae just cut up field because his safety was out of position.
Yeah,
and,
he's like back at the hashes when the ball was like
yeah,
out towards the sideline. But Ashton, the other thing, like just looking at the crazy stats, like no other wide receiver on the Packers got more than four targets. Marquez Valdez-Scantling had 4 targets, 0 catches. Mercedes Lewis, their tight end, and Robert Tanyan combined for 5 targets, 3 catches for 40 fucking yards. And the Texans gave up 35 points. It's fucking insane.
It's the same shit from last week when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? We talked about how Devontae Adams had more targets and Devontae Adams had more catches than Tanyan and Aaron Jones combined together, and everybody else was below them. And the rest of those guys are wide receivers. Like Aaron Jones, their running back. Tanyan is their tight end. Every other wide receiver got fewer catches than the tight end, the starting running back, and the number one wide receiver. So it's a huge drop off, man, and it's a huge flaw that very few teams in the NFL can take advantage of because Devontae Adams is that good, and on top of that, like Aaron Rodgers is even better at throwing the ball, and it's a huge part of the game. It really is. They have 3 guys who are dangerous because it's not like Tanyan and Aaron Jones are nothing to shake a stick at. They're both very talented at what they do, especially Aaron Jones, man. When they give him like those angle routes to run over the middle of the field, he's dangerous. But anyway, moving on, man. What else you got on this one?
Just really quickly, this is the part where
you do the math right? Did you do the math correctly this time?
For what?
Did you do the thing where like you count everybody? Did you count everybody who had the same number? Right? We talked about this the first week. Okay, you did it right this time.
Yeah, I literally went through all 900 eligible players on the Pro Football Focus list for this next stat. So if you're a J.J. Watt fan, you want to cover your ears right now. J.J., thank you for what you did, and Harvey, thank you for everything you've done for the Houston Texans throughout your career. It is time you got traded. There's currently 45 defensive players with more, or they are tied with J.J. Watt in terms of pressuring the quarterback. Ashton, 45 defensive players, and J.J. Watt is getting paid how much? There's also currently 31 defensive players with more sacks than J.J. Watt. He has 3 sacks through 7 games. 3. At one point, you were telling me he was on pace for 10. I don't know what he's on pace on now if he's got 3 and 7. I wish there was like a mathematician in the chat right now. Where's Turkey? Can you do the math? If he's got Turkey is just joining us on Twitch.tv. He's got 3 sacks in 7 games. What's he on pace for 16? I'll give him a couple of
14, so for 14 it would be 6, and then for the other 2 it would probably be 1 in between them or something like that. So it'd be like 7 and something.
Okay, so
now.
So he's tailed off considerably.
Yeah, so right now, of course, right, we're talking about the situation once again. We can talk about the relationship between like pass rushing and coverage because the amount of time that you get to actually throw the ball. We can talk about this when we get to the Tennessee Titans game as well because Ben Roethlisberger has like the fastest release in the NFL right now, and it's literally because his receivers are breaking open almost immediately. So there's a distinct relationship between how shitty the secondary is and J.J. Watt's amount of time to go out there and get some work done. And like I mentioned before, I'm not like a full on like sold on like wholeheartedly believe everything that PFF says, right? But PFF's got him rated as like the highest defensive player on the Houston Texans defense, which is not saying a lot. but
Yeah.
he's still grading over he's still grading like almost an 80, which is impressive because that's compared to his peers based off of what he's doing on the football field. So it's hard for me to sit here and be like, oh yeah, that guy sucks because he's not getting sacks, and it's like,
I'm not saying he
yeah, but like
sucks.
we know, no, but we're like, yeah, but I mean, Martin, you know what I mean, right? Like
Oh yeah.
there's regular people out there that like they equate every defensive end success directly correlated to how good he is at getting sacks. That's why Frank Clark got paid a bunch of money, and that's why people who see him get a sack in the playoffs are like, see, all that money we paid Frank Clark was totally worth it, guys. And
Yeah.
he's still doing it. Like, yeah, I don't think he has a sack this season. So somebody check that. Somebody check me on that.
Yeah. So
But yeah,
Ashton.
he was like, yeah,
Yeah. Or I was gonna say, Ashton actually convinced me a couple weeks ago that it's not all about sacks. That's why I went out this week and looked
yeah.
more at the pressures that because the pressure is what it's
Where are you getting your
hurries
pressures, by the way?
Pro Football Focus the website.
Okay. Oh wow, you fancy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it gives you all 900 every defensive player that's like gotten a sack. Um, so yeah, it's
Yeah, so we
yeah
so if you don't know, a pressure is basically anything that a defensive player does or a
yeah
defense does to put the quarterback in a position where they have to move off of their platform.
yeah
So anytime you see like a court like there's so it gives value, it gives a statistical value because there's a direct correlation between pressures and how effective another quarterback is. Especially when you talk about like if the quarterback's shitty already and you put him under pressure, he's not going to get better. Like that doesn't happen unless you're like Russell Wilson, which guess what? There's not too many of him walking around, or the
it's
NFL would be a
true.
totally different place. Yeah. So but yeah, pressures are pretty much anytime you see a quarterback get moved around, and they don't they can necessarily they don't even have to go down. Like
Yeah, it's
pressure's
literally
not like
just
a
like
tackle.
it's like
It's like
almost
if
like
you
out of the
forced them
pocket.
out of
Yep.
yeah, if you flushed them out of the pocket or if you forced them to move around in the pocket and take their eyes down from being able to throw at the wide receiver, that's a win for a defense, right? Because that's another it's an opportunity that they created for their coverage side to get in a better position. So pressures directly correlates to coverage. Coverage helps out your ability to get pressure, and they feed off of each other because good coverage gives them more time to get sacks, which stop the play completely. But sacks are one play out of an entire game. So think about like on average, there's 11 drives total per team in an NFL game. There's 22 drives, and even if they were all 3 and outs, 22 drives times 30 times 3, right? So that would be 66 plays. You're like a really good day for a defensive lineman is a crazy day is 4, right? Like Aaron
Yeah.
Donald got 4 sacks versus Alex Smith. A crazy good day is 3. A good day is 2. A good day is 1, right? That's 4 at best out of 66 plays you're taking away. Now, if you look at the positioning of those plays, it totally changes like the very essence of like what they mean, right? Like me personally, I value sacks on third down a lot lot more than any
Oh
other
yeah.
sack because that it ends drives like hands down.
They
I'm
should
just
have
saying,
a
just
stat
think
like
about that
that.
kind of stuff.
It,
It should be paid attention to a lot more because that's situational. Because a lot of teams when they get the third down, they're passing the ball more often than they're running it anyway. So it's an opportunity to be like, yo, everybody knows that we're passing the ball, and now you're in a situation where you can go get the quarterback. But anyway,
yeah, I think
something
that
to look at.
yeah. If you got anything else to say on the Texans Packers game?
Nah, man. I mean, we shouldn't have wasted that much time talking about it anyway. It was the Texans. The Texans went out there and did what they've done all season, right? Like
Yeah.
their offense was inconsistent, and then it showed up. It was too late, and their defense was just bad the entire game.
Yep.
They got one turnover at the end, and it made the game look a little bit closer because, like, honestly, if this game ended 35-7, it's the same thing as it ending 35-20. There was no point that they were ever in this game. So yeah.
The closest it was when it was 0-0 when it kicked off. And we could literally take that what Ashton just said right there. We could probably copy and paste for every Texans game going forward for the rest of the season.
And once again, and once again, like people have been saying that they're getting schedule fucked. It's like they have the most difficult schedule in the NFL. They're playing.
There's no doubting.
I guarantee you, the Texans are going to play the 2 teams that play in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like that's how crazy this year is. They've already played the reigning Super Bowl champs. They've played a team they probably are going to play. Martin, I would not be surprised if they played all 4 teams that end up in the championship games.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I mean, it's crazy. The schedule
insane.
they got this year was just one of the reasons when we started the season, and we did our predictions, I said 4-12 for the Texans, and I was being generous. Like the wins that I saw were 2 against the Jags, the Browns, and the Lions. And I think they might play the Bengals at some point. So like 4 or
And
5.
those should be good games, by the way. When they play the Lions and the Browns now,
Yeah.
like that should be a really competitive game. Although they are better, like structural.
They should be better. They should be better.
They're better than the Lions at a lot of positions. I question if they're better at the Lions than at wide receiver. I
And
question that
consistency.
heavily. Yeah, and then on top of that, like they're significantly worse than the Browns are on defense. The Browns defense leads the NFL in interceptions.
Yeah.
So, anyway, go ahead, Martin. We can move on to this next one. We move on from a pretty bad game to the best game of the entire week.
By best game of the week, best game of the year so far, Ashton. The Seattle Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals.
So I'm hesitant to say that because the Seattle Seahawks play next week, and it'll probably be that same thing too. You know what I mean?
Well,
by the way, every effort that any TV network can do to get the Seahawks in prime time, you should take it.
And the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Cardinals, Seahawks. Get every NFC East primetime game that you have scheduled right now. Flex it the fuck to Saturday. Make it go up against fucking college football. Give us the NFC West.
I feel like it. Dude, so like, okay, so Martin, I think there should be a thing in TV networks where they can flex things out of the 425 slot.
Yes.
Like I sometimes they definitely do it, but like I think they should be like, hey, guess what? You're playing at noon, bro. Like I don't know, you're playing at noon with all the other
just
shitty
get
teams.
the game, the game over with. Get the Cowboys, Eagles, the fucking Giants, Redskins. Just
also,
get it over with.
I feel so bad when the Giants and the Jets play at different time slots
because
like we mentioned before, it takes up the entire day for New York fans. They have to. They're like, no, please don't make us watch both. Please don't take away. Please don't make the NFL game of the week the Jets again. But yeah, anyway, that happened. Yeah, sorry, but
37-34, Ashton. My Arizona Cardinals, my team, my love, my Bay, the Arizona Cardinals. They came out in the all black, at least the black tops for the primetime game. You had the Seahawks, who at the time undefeated, possibly the best team in the NFL, or at least best offense in the NFL. Still probably, I'll still give them that. I still think the Seahawks offense is better than the Arizona Cardinals. I personally believe the Cardinals defense is better than the Seahawks. But what I wrote down, my immediate reaction to this game, Ashton, of course, all the gloating and everything I did on Twitter, poking fun at you and that Frosty Nugs, because you two are literally the two biggest Arizona Cardinals haters I've come across this season. So obviously I'm going to put it in your face. The Seahawks have been part of 2 of the 3 best games so far this year. The game against the Patriots, where they stopped Cam Newton on the 1-yard line. That game is up there. And then the Cowboys Falcons game, of course, the comeback and the whole onside kick. That one's just unforgettable because of how it ended with the onside kick and everything. But like pure matchups, like pure just on the field entertainment on the field, everything just being exciting and act like the thing with the Falcons Cowboys game is at the end of the season it's not gonna fucking matter. Neither team's gonna be in the playoffs. The Seahawks Patriots and Seahawks Cardinals games are gonna fucking matter because the Seahawks are basically 1-1 in the 2 games, right? Like they could easily have went 0-2 if they hadn't stopped Cam Newton at the 1-yard line, but they came up strong in that one. Did they look tired to you by the end of this game?
So nah, man, I think you got that confused with the fact that their pass rush is like non-existent. So their pass rush. So here's the skinny on. I guess this is why I go into my breakdown because what I'm about to say explains everything that you just saw on Sunday Night Football. The Seattle Seahawks exist in direct opposition of themselves, Martin. They are a top 5 offense with a top 5 big play offensive stats, so like plays that are beyond 20 yards, with a bottom 5 defense that's top 5 in turnovers generated this season. It makes no sense whatsoever. And that's usually how it presents itself on the field is what you saw on Sunday Night Football. They are infinitely good and bad at the same time. Great on offense, but the defense is like really bad until they get a turnover, and then all of a sudden everybody forgets all the bad plays that happened before, right? They have no pass rush, like it's like 32nd or 31st in the NFL in terms of pass rush and getting pressures. We just talked about the importance of pressures, but they're one of the worst teams in the NFL when it comes to getting pressure, and it shows. There was not many times where Kyler Murray even felt the need to run, unless it was just wide open green pastures. Which, by the way, the Seattle Seahawks, our offense, yeah, that I mean, Russell got like a 15-yard run off for free, like right down the middle one time. So
Yeah,
anyway,
it was
but
weird.
yeah,
He actually his long was 34. You remember, like the one where he just like
that
took
was the one
off
where
and
Buddha like came at him and he like slid down or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, and like the 34-yard one, he was just like his head was like almost looking around like, how am I this far away from the line of scrimmage?
right. He's like, I don't feel safe anymore.
Yeah,
Like
you can tell like the thought that was going through his head, and
like no, like there's like at a certain point you've been there, right? Like when you're on a like if you ever had like a layup, a fast break layup in a basketball game, you're just like, is somebody around me that I don't know is there?
am I about to
It's
get
like
LeBron from behind? You know?
right, no, you just gotta know. You gotta like you're looking around. You're like, it can't be this easy right now. And you see Kyler have that type of situation multiple times as well when he runs in for certain rushing touchdowns this season. He had one where he just kind of like chopped his feet a little bit and the DB broke down and he just kind of like cruised on in. Anyway, Seattle Seahawks 34-37 was the final score in this one. Arizona Cardinals win in overtime of this game so far, Martin. And congratulations to the Arizona Cardinals. Somehow they put on their worst defensive performance of the entire season.
Some would say
and
their
came out and
best.
won by 3.
Some would say it was their best defensive
They
performance.
literally
Ashton.
surrendered the most yards that they've ever surrendered in a game. They surrendered their most rushing yards. They surrendered the most passing yards they surrendered in a game. The most points, I think it is. Yeah, by a lot. They surrendered the most points that they surrendered in a single football game.
They did.
And
They won. They got
it
the
was
dub.
hands down their worst defensive performance of the entire season. What they did really well, and this is a credit to Vance Joseph, in overtime, they found out a way to cook up some pressure against Russell Wilson. And on top of that, like shout out to Isaiah Simmons, man, because a lot of people, if you listen to like analytics podcasts and stuff like that, when it comes to football, they talk so much shit about Isaiah Simmons. And he came out there, showed the blitz on the stunt, and then dropped right back. And I mean, Vance Joseph, who people talked a lot of shit about last year when he was a head coach, and we'll talk about the Broncos later. Anyway, talked a lot of shit about him going out there and dialing up the perfect play at the perfect time to end the drive from a dynamic offense, giving Russell Wilson one of his worst games of the entire season, despite the fact that his offense put up 34 points. Because I think a lot of people would take the kind of game that Russell Wilson put out there any day of the week, and it wasn't enough to beat the Arizona Cardinals. Shout out to them for going out there on offense and tearing it up, man, because there's no question about it. They beat the Seahawks offense down. I mean, Seahawks defense down. Buda Baker, great play. DK Metcalf, a little bit of a better play. And the wild part is, a lot of people aren't talking about like DK Metcalf ran him down and then they got to stop.
Yes.
So like Ola for the Pittsburgh Steelers that follows me, and I think he follows you too on Twitter. We used to cover him when he was in high school. He played for Bush, but he tweeted out, he's like, oh man, and they got to stop. Every high school coach from here to the other coast is gonna be talking about that all forever. They're gonna be talking about that play for years. Seeing DK Metcalf hustle him down and everything like that. But yeah, it was one of those situations where, you know, Buda Baker, like CJ McCollum likes to say, he was running out of talent and DK Metcalf was just getting started. Yeah. So yeah,
that play.
But yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing on both ends because Buda had like a perfect read on that. Mm-hmm. Russell Wilson must have thought that shit was wide open because Buda I think ran and covered like 10 yards of space in the time that Russell Wilson turned his back to him and then turned back around, saw his running back was wide open, and Buda like covered and drove on that ball so hard and hit the afterburners. And you know, DK Metcalf is not a human being. I'm still waiting on people to.
He is literally. Like, remember when we were talking?
Right? Somebody needs to check his piss on a regular basis.
Remember when we talked about him being the next Megatron? Didn't Calvin Johnson do something similar? Didn't Calvin Johnson chase somebody down at one point?
I think you're thinking of Julio Jones. By the way, DK Metcalf challenging Julio Jones' title for best safety in the NFL.
Speaking of Buda Baker, Ashton, these are one of the questions that I wrote down after this game. Is he? I already know your answer, but is Buda Baker the defensive MVP of the league right now?
Aaron Donald's on some wild shit right now.
Or is he at least? Do you think Buda Baker's in the contention or like the conversation to be defensive MVP?
Man, I've only watched 2 full Arizona Cardinals games and I've listened to one on the radio. So like that doesn't count, right? Like listening to it on the radio doesn't give you an idea of like what he's actually doing on the field. So I've watched a lot of highlights. I've watched like different portions of the game because I've had it on my laptop. But I've watched 2 full games from like start to finish of the Arizona Cardinals. And I mean, he looked really good. And of course, he's like the best defensive player on that team, by the way. Talk about a good time to get paid and get your money, my man.
Yeah.
Got that extension out here and earning every single dime of it. So, but yeah, I mean, of course, like right now, of course he's in the conversation. It's just like any of these awards, man. It's so hard to tell. We're in week 7. There's literally 10 more weeks of this to go before we get to a point where we're like handing out awards. But yeah, he's got to be in the conversation, man. It's hard to believe that. Well, no, it makes sense because Stephon Gilmore won it last year. But like a safety winning, who was the last safety to win Defensive Player of the Year? Probably Ed Reed.
Yeah, last safety to win NFL.
Ed Reed, Charles Woodson.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Group chat's blowing up right now. Baseball game must be going really well for the World Series.
Let's see. The last Troy Polamalu in 2010 was the last.
That's
safety.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
that's a decade ago.
Yeah,
that's right, guys. You're old.
Yeah,
decade ago.
Every time I see the Head and Shoulders commercial with him and Patrick Mahomes, I'm sitting there. I'm like, there's probably people that don't know who like. There's a whole generation of like NFL fans that are like 10 years old or so, have no fucking idea who Troy Polamalu is, and it's like, bro, he was like, I hope Turkey's still here.
Hair?
He was Turkey and I's best player back in his USC. Like the Troy Polamalu USC defenses were some of the best defenses of all time, in my opinion. I know I'm a bit biased as a USC fan back then, but like watching him do his thing at the Coliseum and stuff, and Turkey actually got to watch him live, I believe against Michigan, and just did like
Michigan.
Yeah, that
Michigan.
But I could honestly see Buda. I mean, his interception. He's only got 2 interceptions. I think if you're gonna give it to a safety, I mean, I don't know how much Troy Polamalu had that season, but he's got 59 tackles so far. So,
but it's also like who else is like really competing for it right now? Because like the best defense in the NFL is the Chicago. Well, in theory, by definition, the best defense in the NFL is the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. So of course, like you think about T.J. Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick are the 2 guys that come to mind, and then with the Bears, their whole situation, Akeem Hicks may be in the mix for it or whatever, but their whole thing is like more of a group effort for sure across the board. But yeah, it's something to think about. He's definitely in the conversation. Now that I think about it, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you think about like other people.
If I had to like do a 3-man, who I would put in for defensive MVP, like mid-season defensive MVP, I'd probably do Aaron Donald. Just because he is just like the hard part for Aaron Donald is he's so fucking consistent. Like his great year, like his year, it's also crazy. And then Myles Garrett, because Myles Garrett's getting a lot of sacks.
Underrated part of this season so far. Khalil Mack is back.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack is back, guys. Like nobody's really talking about that right now. It's very important.
Is this where we put in the Return of the Mack song?
Yeah, especially considering apparently Marlon Mack has been with the Colts the whole time. Like he didn't he's still like quarantining himself and everything so he can go to practice and hang out with the team and everything like that. So and to help Jonathan Taylor Thomas, the tool man. But yeah, other stuff. Xavier Howard, not Xavier Howard, who by the way apparently not in trade rumors with the Dolphins. They like the team came out and like legit. I think it was Omar Kelly for the Miami Herald reported that Xavier Howard is being like shopped around by the Dolphins, and the Dolphins came out and they were like, "That's shitty ass." They basically were like, "That's shit ass reporting, and that guy should be fired." Damn. So, who was that? Not Xavier Howard, Xavier Rhodes. Wow, those are a
There's a lot
lot
of
of
Xaviers.
Xaviers, and
Yeah.
a lot of Xaviers that are pretty good.
Look, kids, if you want to be good in the NFL, switch your name to Xavier, move to the secondary position, and you'll be kind of set. But
yeah,
moving back to the Seahawks Cardinals game really quickly, Ashton. You and I have talked a
wild part
couple of
is
times.
49ers can beat either one of those teams.
The Cardinals already beat the 49ers. So
no, I'm saying like division stuff, like the divisional
yeah,
stuff, like the way they're playing. The Cardinals could beat either one of those teams. But yeah, NFC West is the best division in football.
best by far. But I mean, maybe the AFC North, but they've got the Bengals, so you can't really like that kind of holds them back up just a little bit. But
the worst team in what's the worst team in the NFC West?
Probably the 49ers. 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals. I mean, I don't know. I would have to say the 49ers, but I mean,
if you're in the chat, what's the worst team in the NFC West? Go.
Yeah, of those four teams, hit us up in the chat or on Twitter at @MartynPape_ MartynPape_, or you can hit up Ashton at FB_playbook, or just let us know in the chat if you who you think the worst team. If anybody says the fucking Arizona Cardinals,
they are.
Meet me in the street. Catch me outside. How about that?
Catch me outside.
Russell will, but these are some of my bigger takeaways, Ashton. Russell Wilson, you and I have talked about the magic that he. Turkey's in the chat saying San Francisco 49ers only because of recency bias with the Rams. So yeah, that kind of makes sense.
They just kicked the shit out of. Okay, whatever.
No,
they just blew the doors off.
The Niners beat the Rams. Maybe he's getting that backwards.
And then the Niners just won this weekend too. So
yeah,
whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting division to watch go down to the wire. But Russell Wilson,
take the NFC East's playoff spot and give it to the West.
Yeah, exactly. Just get. Did you see they put up the NFC playoff picture on? He said the Niners are better. So I guess Turkey thinks the Rams are the worst team in the NFC.
They
West,
are very much like a lot of dudes in the NFL week to week. How we would define.
I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, I know how much you love the Seahawks, but I could see a world where they finish fourth in that division.
I mean, technically anybody. They're all divisional opponents, so like they all know each other a lot. But like you look at like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Pete Carroll, and Cliff Kingsbury. One of these is not like the other.
Which one is
Moving on.
Russell Wilson's magic. You and I have talked about it repeatedly over this season. It faded in the second half in overtime of this game. It was weird to see Russell Westbrook struggle. We don't see that very often, especially.
Russell Westbrook does struggle. Russell Wilson also struggled in the fourth quarter.
Did I say Westbrook again?
Yeah. They both struggle. They're both on the struggle bus right now.
We need a counter. We need a counter for how many times I say Russell Westbrook instead of Russell Wilson, and San Diego Chargers instead of the Los Angeles Chargers.
You can call him what he really is, Sierra's husband.
Like my girlfriend Marissa, husband. That's the only reason I watched the last fourth quarter at her house, and he came up on the screen, and she was like, "Is that Sierra's husband?" I was like, "Yeah."
To a lot of people in the world, Russell Wilson is Sierra's husband.
Yeah, and I was like, "Yes, babe."
The stepfather of Lil Fuge.
Yeah, I was like, "Yes, babe. That is that is Sierra's husband out there playing for the Seahawks." But from the moment they went into halftime to the end of overtime, the Seahawks only scored 7 points. Ashton, and you've already mentioned Vance Joseph. Did Arizona figure them out?
Point out, Chris Carson was not there in the second half.
That's true.
So that plays in a lot for sure. It also seemed like Tyler Lockett was the only guy who was even close to getting open. You saw how tight those windows were. Like the Cardinals secondary played pretty well, especially considering like Patrick Peterson and Budda Baker, like half of their secondary, they played pretty well when it was all said and done. Didn't see a lot of DK Metcalf, and that was probably more so by design. And then of course we'll talk about this theory a little bit later on, right? Like David Moore had a really good game as well, along with Tyler Lockett as well. So that's another thing too.
That holding penalty on David
Moore.
Dude,
don't even get me started on how. Oh, sorry, Martin is talking about how
that was holding, right?
The Seahawks won the game. It was holding
Okay,
for sure. But it's like, yo, like just let him go and let him try. Like his
Metcalf
thing
was
was like
gone.
David
He
Moore
didn't
was like,
need to.
no, no, it was like David Moore was just like, I'm gonna hold this guy so he can't tackle checks notes DK Metcalf
Yeah,
at an angle while
yeah.
he's going full speed. I have
Didn't
to
have to do
protect
it. He
DK so
didn't
he
have
can
to.
win the game. Yes.
There,
But yeah, David's probably kicking himself, man. And hopefully, nobody's holding it against them
oh
because
no,
there's a
no.
lot of things that there's a lot of things that went wrong for them to be in a situation where they're in overtime versus a team that at one point they led 24-7.
Yeah, and
So
that's actually my. I've got two more points, and that's one. Or actually, I got a few points, but so Seattle had more total yards, more first downs, and outpaced the Cardinals in time of possession, 39 minutes to 30, and still lost. Arizona, the Cardinals trailed 10-0, 20-7, 27-14, 34-24. Four times. Four. One, two, three, four. They trailed by 10 or more points and found a way to fight back and get a dub. I think that shows a lot of resilience for a very young team. I mean, if you take Larry Fitzgerald out, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is like one of their oldest players, which is fucking wild because D Hop's like, what, 28, 26, something like that?
also, side note, does that mean the streak of teams that have come back and won from down 16 points or more, 16
Mm,
points or more? Yeah, it is. Every
did it
week there's
end?
been a team that's come back from 16 plus points
Yeah.
down. The Cardinals came back from down 24-7. 16 points, right? Am I crazy?
No, it was 20-7.
No, that's 16.
No, it was 20-7, and then 27-14.
Okay.
So
Well,
they wouldn't have
maybe
been. They were
did
never
it
down
bring?
16.
Okay.
Um,
There's a stat where it's like every week this so far this season there's been a team that's come back from 16 points down to win.
yeah,
So yeah.
and
Anyway,
I know you just ragged on Cliff Kingsbury comparing him to the other coaches of the division, but I think that shows a lot to the coaching staff, not letting the guys quit, continuing to fight, showing that resiliency. Um,
aka Vance Joseph for dialing up
yeah,
like a
I
really
mean,
good second half game.
and
So
so did the. I mean, the offense. It was so did the offense played. I mean, it was awesome to see. Just really quickly before we move on, they could only play the highlights of Larry Legend on the final fourth quarter possession, where after every single play where the clock was running, did you see this, Ashton? He'd run to the ball, grab it, pick it up, wouldn't throw it back to the referee. He literally ran it to the where the ball needed to be placed, handed it to the center, and then got set. Because you could see the Seattle Seahawks at one point like trying to smash the ball out of his hand and like slow him up, and that was literally the only reason they got down the field. I mean, Zane Gonzalez missed the field goal, but at the same time, just seeing Larry Fitzgerald, like that in a nutshell, sets Larry Fitzgerald apart from. I mean, tell me other players and like you see the teams like when they're hurrying up, they wait for the referee to set the ball. Like he's literally doing the referee's job for him so that they could get as much time necessary out of each and every play. And you just got to give it out to him. He passed a couple of records this game. 1,400 catches at that stadium. I can't remember. They just changed the name of it. It's like State Farm.
yeah, there's only it's University of Phoenix, right?
Well, it used to be. They changed it.
Okay, well that's lame. Yeah, there's only two players in the history of the NFL that have as many catches as Larry Fitzgerald. He has like 1,401, I think, because he had another one right after he caught the 1,400th one,
Yep.
and it is Larry Fitzgerald and Jerry Rice.
Yep. Jerry Rice did it in a candlestick, and
Yeah,
Larry did it down in Phoenix, Arizona. It's just he also it was another there's another stat that has slipped my mind that he set during that game. I'll remember it later on. Finally, I love watching Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins play football. Man, I'm I'm never going to forget the days that DeAndre Hopkins had a Texans jersey on, and the fact that he no longer has a jersey on just because of a grudge between the head coach at the time and general manager. And I just love watching that man play football. I love watching Kyler Murray. I watch his little legs whenever he's fucking scampering, man. Like he looks like the fucking Roadrunner sometimes. Like his legs move so fucking fast. Um, and honestly, they're probably two of my favorite players to watch in the league right now. It's Russell Wilson's up there. I love watching what they call it on the broadcast, the moon ball. Like you can't deny Russell Wilson, you can't deny Patrick Mahomes. Um, who else? I mean, some people say Lamar. I'm not the biggest Lamar Jackson fan, to be honest. But like the four players right now that just come to mind, like if you tell me they're playing in the game, I'm gonna tune in. Russell, Patrick, Kyler, and DeAndre. Probably or maybe DeAndre a little bit higher, but those four right there are just they're almost in like a different class of just talent wise on offense and just excitement wise. Like I mean it's incredible to watch them play. And before we move on, Ashton is currently taking a drink of some Jack Daniels because if everybody tuned in on Thursday's episode, he has one thing that he has to say before we can even continue this podcast.
Oh, I won't be saying that, sir. I think the Cardinals are a better team than I originally thought they were.
There we go. That's some fucking respect.
I think the Cardinals are a good football team.
Yes! He said it. Can we clip that, please? He thinks they're better than he thought and that they're a good football team. That's all I wanted to hear. Even if they lost, even if this was a 37-34 game, I think you would have had to give the Arizona Cardinals some credit. We move on, Ashton.
I wasn't gonna come out here and say I respect their defense after they gave up 34 points, but
they did what
like
they
I said,
to do
statistically they had their worst defensive performance of the entire year, but they still won that motherfucking game, and I respect it because they somehow thrived in the chaos that the Seahawks were creating, and they figured it out. Not too many teams in the NFL that can do that, baby. Yep.
And you and I, we love us some chaos. This next game ended a little bit chaotic, even though it started as a bit of a blowout. The Titans and Steelers were both undefeated. Now the Steelers are the only, I believe, are they the only in the NFL, or is it just in?
No, the Steelers are the only undefeated team in the NFL.
My Super Bowl winning pick, that is. 6-0 right now, 27-24. Ashton, they were up a lot early. I even texted you at one point, said the Steelers are shitting on the Titans. And the next time I tuned into this game, it was a fucking 3-point game, and the Titans were driving down the field in the fourth quarter to try and tie it up or win it and do exactly what they did to the Texans. However, the Steelers showed the class, just how much of a class above they are of the Texans. They literally didn't let the Titans do what they did exactly a week ago. You got to give them credit for that.
And once again, Martin, can we once again point out how small of a difference the Texans have played the Steelers and they have played the Titans?
Yep.
It was a one-possession game with the Titans. And I think it was a one-possession game with the Steelers, right? That's considered they didn't score in the second half.
It was a 7-point game. Yep.
That
7-point game in the Steelers, 6 points in the Titans.
The team that was able to do that is 1-6, 1-5. So to try and tell me this bullshit about the Texans suck this year, it's like, look at literally this was a game between two undefeated teams that the Texans played and lost to by a touchdown. Led one of them until the very last second of it. It took the overtime for the Titans to be able to beat the Texans. Just saying. Just some stuff to think about when you're over there trying to rag on the Texans. Yeah. And Martin, that makes it even more infuriating because they did all that with their shitty defense. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. They had it was a 27-7 lead with 9 minutes to go in the game. And then the Titans scored the rest of the points. They just couldn't get it at the end, even though, I mean, did you have this down about how many yards they had in the first quarter?
Yeah, they had one.
Yeah.
The Titans finished the first quarter of this game with 1 net yard, because I think they lost. Like 7 on one of their drives. But yeah, they had 1 yard at the end of the first quarter. The Steelers, so Martin, this is how it is. They had 11 possessions in total in this game, right? Mm-hmm. First 6, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and Ben Roethlisberger threw one of his 3 interceptions, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone after that was either a punt or a turnover. So, yeah, that tells you everything. And that was in the second half, right? Like they did not perform well in the second half, and the Titans were still trying to work their way back into this one. One thing to also point out about this one, Chase Claypool was basically non-existent in this game, right? Because the Titans, like, they designed it that way. Luckily for the Steelers, their other two wide receivers are really good too. So they had Deontay Johnson and a man you mentioned quite a bit on Thursday's episode in Juju Smith-Schuster tear it up. They dominated that game. So yeah, that was
Don't
that
forget
was
about
insane.
me.
Yeah, and James Conner had like 84 yards when this game was all said and done, so that was pretty impressive as well too. Ben Roethlisberger tried to throw this game away.
Yeah, he did.
Like, not on purpose. He literally was out there. He was like, "I'm just trying to sling it around, man. Just like old times, guys. I'm just trying to do what I do all the time." And I finished with 3 interceptions and 2 touchdowns, and they still won by a field goal. And I get it; they probably would have ended up going into overtime. And based off what was happening in the second half of that game, they would have lost. But I guess we'll never know. That's the difference between the Texans and the Titans. A missed field goal. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Also, Steven Gostkowski continues to drop down the accuracy rating.
Yeah.
In all time, like
just stop, dude.
He's
like,
dropping down the kicking accuracy rating in
just give him
in the season.
You've got the literally like the NFL record for accuracy, and you're literally kicking it away as you continue to season.
I blame the Titans. I blame the Titans.
I mean, they got one they got one of those shitty fields. Like, every time I see the fucking
hey,
Nashville,
don't you say that?
The
I will say
Nashville.
this: Nissan Stadium looks really nice to me.
Oh, say something nice about the Titans.
No, it looks nice. It does, to me personally, it looks really nice. Maybe it's because it feels uplifting because they have such a light blue color on their jerseys and everything like that. And then of course, like, they do a really good. They have like those giant swords and everything, so that's like a cool logo. But I will say this: maybe it's just not fun to play on. Maybe it's just like Tampa Bay, where like what was it, Roberto Aguayo? Remember him? Mm-hmm. And you want to talk about a case on sports psychology, guys? They're going to be writing case studies about Roberto Aguayo long after he's dead. So, but yeah, he played for Tampa Bay, and when he went down, he was the most accurate kicker in the history of college football. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers used a first-round pick on Roberto Aguayo to draft him to their team because they were like, this guy, locked tight, 100% guarantee he's going to be 100% on extra points, 100% on PATs, 100% on field goals and everything. And then life happened. So
whamp. No, I don't like the Titans field. It reminds me of like Notre Dame Stadium. It's just gross. I mean, if you're into the watching old school,
somebody pull up a side by side. I want to know what that. I don't
it's
get how you
the
get
way
those
the
vibes.
grass looks. Like, it just doesn't look good. Like, it just.
Also, there's a huge push. Did you see this? The NFLPA is pushing like towards real grass coming back.
Yeah, they want to do away with the fake whatever turf,
which to their credit, because the way the Texans do it is stupid as hell. The Texans import grass into like a gridlock field. They literally have a gridiron field of patches of grass, and they literally were getting sued they've been sued by multiple players for getting hurt on that field.
Terrible.
Multiple of their own players, guys. Not like other teams' players, their own players.
Like, the Cardinals do it. The Cardinals do it, but it's literally on like it's just the field. They don't undo it piece by piece. Yeah, you see the video. It's like it rolls out. They put it under the sun, and they roll it back in. The Texans, I mean, for Houston people, you drive down past Energy Park, Energy Stadium, whatever, you can literally see the fucking blocks of the field just like out and about. And it's like, what the fuck are you like? I mean, it's got to be like
outside the stadium.
It's got to be cost saving because it's fucking terrible. But
the theory, I would love to hear somebody explain to me why, like, who has a good idea and a bad idea of how their stadium should be run. Because you can sit here and say that they want real grass, but then you look at Soldier Field, what it looks like at the back half of the NFL season, and it's like a mud pit, right? Because they can only do so much to regrow the grass per week or whatever. And of course, in Chicago, and maybe it'll be better this year because in Chicago they let the high school kids play on Soldier Field for the championship games and I think state semifinals. So maybe they won't let them do it this year because they're, high school sports is basically like non-existent. Even down here in Texas, like, teams are losing their entire seasons because there was a team, I mentioned this off air. It was really sad, but it was also like, yo, this is crazy. They literally didn't have enough healthy players to field a team. So they had to cancel their entire season.
Yeah, that's wild.
It was wild. Yeah.
Chicago, Tennessee, Notre Dame, those are the 3 worst fields that I can think of. If you ask me for bad fields, those are the 3 that come to my mind. Ashton, we move on from the Tennessee Titans Pittsburgh Steelers game to possibly the craziest ending of Week 7. Who saw this one coming? Detroit Lions 23, Atlanta Falcons 22. The Lions now 3-3 on the season. Ashton, Atlanta 1-6. Um, I'll take this one really quickly. So, for those that missed the game and didn't see what happened, Devontae Freeman, the running back for the was it Devontae Freeman?
No, you talk about Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley. Sorry, Devontae Freeman
plays for the Giants.
Yeah, Devontae Freeman used to be the Falcons running back. Todd Gurley takes a handoff. Was it about 10 yards? All he had to do was run out the clock. The Lions let him get towards the end of the zone. He tries to fall down, Ashton, but his momentum, he falls in, like the ball crosses the line of or not the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so they pretended they tackled, they made contact with him at the line of scrimmage and then let him go.
Yeah.
Because they knew he was gonna lower his shoulder, and not knew, but like they grabbed him and then let him run through their arms, and he went full force into their arms, protecting the ball. So he had no hand to put down on the ground to balance himself because he's in the red zone. Like, you don't want to fumble the ball in the red zone, right? Especially in a situation where it's like a game deciding type situation. And he accidentally falls 1 inch inside the end zone.
Yeah.
It's a game of inches. It's a game of inches, guys.
Yeah, and you see the Detroit Lions defensive players celebrating the touchdown. Like, turning to the referee like,
they were like, hey, just so you know, he definitely scored just now.
Yeah, like, that's a touchdown, right? Like, we got 1:06 left in the game. We just gave up a touchdown. Like, that was so fucking cool. It was so fucking cool to see. One, because it was odd. You see the Falcons guys score. They're taking the lead with barely a minute left in the game. And the Lions are celebrating because, 2, they had confidence in Matthew Stafford and their offense to go down the field and either tie it up or score another touchdown. And Matthew Stafford, I mean, that last drive, talk about just being on point. I mean, he was zoop, 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 zoop. I mean, how many... Ashton, I'm going to look up how many plays it was actually on that last drive while you give your little 2 cents here. Yeah.
So the Lions aren't as bad as we all thought they were. But the Falcons are way worse than we thought they were. So we learned that today. Also, I was thoroughly surprised of the big brain play from Matt Patricia. So
that was my biggest take.
Yeah, I know, right? Getting 3, like now they're just like, look, we're 3-3. They're not even in a situation where they can fire him, right?
Yeah. I mean, 3-3. That's like, where is that in like overall NFL standings? Like, that's like they're almost like doing all right. Let's see here, 3-3.
And you look at, and then on top of that, like, you look at their division where you just like, it's the Packers, the Bears, who have 5 wins, and the Packers are in front of them. They have 1 loss so far this season, and they have 3, so they're in 3rd in their division because the Vikings are terrible.
They're 18th overall, with records and
right
everything.
Around the middle.
Yeah,
right around the middle.
So Matt Patricia will be there next year most likely. But Ashton, this is the last drive, play by play, for the Detroit Lions. First down, it's Matthew Stafford incomplete. Second down, 13-yard reception to T.J. Hawkinson. Spikes the ball. Second down, Stafford deep to Danny Amendola for 22 yards. Spikes the ball. Stafford goes to Galladay for 11 yards. They reviewed it. The play was upheld, so he got the catch. Spikes the ball, touchdown for 11 yards on the next play. Talk about efficient.
Got a chance to set up to spike the ball because the review off the Kenny Galladay catch. So you look at every single pass that he threw, nothing under 10 yards. The closest thing to 10 yards was the 11-yard pass to Kenny Galladay, which is clutch, man. Look, I mean, this is something that we've known that Matthew Stafford has. He's just never in a game where like they're that close. Remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, right, Martin? He's got now he's tied with Russell Wilson again for the most game-winning drives currently in the NFL. So yeah, Matthew Stafford is clutch, man, and he just hasn't been in a situation where he's had to be clutch. But the fact that this game was this close is probably a sign of the level of talent that the Lions have. They went up against a 1-6 Atlanta Falcons team, which, based off of, like, we can sit here and talk about talent, but like the talent has to turn into skill, and the skill has to turn into execution, and the execution has to turn into wins. So far, they're stuck on the we have talented players part.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anything else
it'll
on
be
this
interesting to see. They play the Texans a little bit later on this season. That should be two. And then Matthew Stafford's from he's not from Houston. He's from Austin. Went to Southlake, right?
Or wait, no, he
One of
went
the
to.
Southlake boys, or
I thought he went to Highland
South
Park.
Carroll.
I thought he went to Highland Park.
Did he really go to Highland Park? That's wild. Okay. I thought it was Southlake. Who? Oh, is it Drew Brees that went to Southlake?
He went to Westlake.
Westlake.
Southlake was fuck.
It's probably Drew. No, it wasn't Drew. They all went to the same high school. Anyway.
Yeah, Stafford went to Highland Park.
Yeah.
Who was the quarterback that went to Southlake? Because it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't fucking.
Baker Mayfield.
No, Baker went to Lake Travis.
Westlake. Oh, Lake Travis. Yeah. See, by the way, all those schools are by Austin, which is the weird part. Like.
Yeah, it's like. Sort of.
It is the rich kid. It's the rich
kids.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, Highland Park. So Highland Park is that school that, if you are a football fan, you heard that Jerry Jones's nephew goes to, and he actually beat De'Aaron King, who's the quarterback for Miami, in his final. No, wait, was it De'Aaron King's last game? Yes, it.
Yeah, it was. No, it was the crazy.
Yeah, the Hail Mary catch. Yeah.
So,
it was De'Aaron King's last high school game, and they lost to Jerry Jones's kid.
So
or Jerry Jones's nephew.
The most famous Southlake Carroll quarterbacks to make it to the NFL, Ashton, Chase Daniel, Greg McElroy. I thought there was somebody else.
Greg McElroy played for Bama. Chase Daniels played for Texas A&M or Mizzou.
Mizzou.
Played for Mizzou. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, Chase Daniels is also like one of the greatest hustlers in the history of the NFL. He was a backup his entire career, right? And I think he made like over $100 million. So
yeah, the deal that he got to go to Seattle, wasn't that when Russell took the job? Like he played.
I thought it was Matt.
No, that was Matt Flynn. Yeah, that was Matt Flynn. I'm getting confused with Chase Daniel. All right, Ashley, we move on.
Matt Flynn, who only played well in Seattle versus the Packers.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then the Packers signed him, and then they cut him because he sucked when they played against the Seattle. Whatever. Anyway,
whatever. One of those weird stories that there'll be a 30 for 30 on is like the Matt Flynn contract that fucking whatever. Bills 18, Jets 10. Ashton, I'm trying not to laugh too hard reading that one out.
Man.
Nobody almost loses to the Jets like the Buffalo Bills.
Verbal meme, the African dudes on Safari saying, "Hey guys, we're about to toss our heads back and laugh in unison. Ready, go!" And it's like them laughing. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, 18-10, the 5-2 Bills eke out a win versus the 0-7 Jets.
Yeah.
You want to do it? You want me to do it? Or you want to do it?
You got it, dude.
The Bills almost gave up what the trick is, Martin. They almost said the quiet part out loud. We're not that good.
They're a product of their schedule of so the Texans are like the negative project, are the negative side of the scheduling. The Buffalo Bills of anybody, maybe the Titans, but like the Buffalo Bills so far this season, 5-2 on the schedule that they have, Ashton. It's like, I mean, if you're a good football team, you should. I mean, the Chiefs are probably the only real team you should be losing to. If you're a Super Bowl contender, like I've heard some people say about the Buffalo Bills, you should have no fucking problem. They already lost to Titans. Yeah, that was a weird game, whatever. But the Jets who haven't only they've given up over 200 points this season already, Ashton, and the Bills.
And the important part about this game. The Bills scored 18 points. 0 of them were touchdowns.
Nada.
They kicked every single thing as a field goal. They won very similar to how the Broncos beat the Patriots last week. Mm-hmm. And, luckily for them, the Bills' biggest concern right now, based off of this week, week 7, they're, the team that's challenging them for the AFC East Division title, Martin, they're guaranteed trip into the playoffs, the Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
That's their biggest concern right now. They're lucky that's all they got to worry about. But yeah, defense got shut out in the second half. Buffalo Bills shut them out in the third and the fourth quarter because things would have really got spicy if the Jets had scored a touchdown in the second half because it would have been a whopping 18-17 in that game. The Bills got into Jets territory almost every single possession. They even legit Martin got down to the 11-yard line and still couldn't score. So
Against the Jets.
I hope somebody was taking notes during that game, and I'm sure they were because it has got to be baffling because it almost comes off like they were trolling versus the Jets, and you're just like, yeah, we're just not going to score this touchdown. But it's very clearly that they're not capable of doing it in that situation. And they got into the Jets red zone multiple times and couldn't finish on a drive. Which, by the way, at a certain point, Mark, you just go for it on fourth down, right?
Yeah.
We're like, we'll give the Jets the ball at the 10-yard line on their own territory, like you know what I mean. So, but yeah, it was one of those games where you big time sus. So let's see. Last three games for the Bills are 2 losses and an 8-point win over the Jets.
Yeah, you don't like it when I say this, but were they looking ahead a game? Were they just like, all right, we got the Jets this week. Let's practice 2 weeks for the Patriots, since that's who's next for the Bills on the old schedule there. So, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but 18-10 against the Jets, no offensive touchdowns, and you've got the Patriots and the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Your next 3 weeks, Ashton, they could be 5-5 by the end of November.
Life comes at you fast, kids.
Yeah, like good luck. Good luck the next couple of weeks. I mean, hopefully Cam Newton can start throwing the ball again, or else that's gonna be a tough one for the Patriots. But Josh Allen did fuck all except he threw 300 yards again. Ashton, whoop-de fucking do. He had 11 carries, 61 yards. He led the team in rushing. So of course there's gonna be some
for
people,
the third time this season.
So obviously there's gonna be some fucking analyst that just eats that all up, talks about how fucking great Josh Allen is, and I wish I have Cole Beasley in a couple of leagues and didn't start him, and he went for 11 catches on 12 targets for 112 yards. So.
Yeah, I think this is the third week in a row he's led the team in receiving.
Yeah, I'm almost guaranteed. I'm basically going to start. Like, I think it was Field Yates put out a stat that he's on pace for over 100 catches and 1,100 yards or something like that on the season, which would be insane for Cole Beasley. But it is what it is. The Jets don't have an offense. Sam Darnold did fuck all. Frank Gore continues to just chug along until his son gets in the NFL. Nothing else really to say about. I mean, unless you've got more. Actually, I do have one more thing I would like to say, and this is taking the Dolphins out of it because you and I love the Dolphins. We're big Dolphin. We moved on from the Washington football team to the Dolphins being our little like. This team could possibly go and win their division. Can we start discussing the AFC East as one of the worst in the NFL?
Yeah, I was waiting on people to really kind of catch on to it, but
we got the Jets. We got the Jets who are bad. We got the Patriots who, I mean, they can put it down to half their defense not playing the season for COVID reasons. But still, you've got a lot of people, a lot of Brady fans talking about like it's starting to show who the real brain and who the actual cog in the machine was and all this stuff. And it's like, you guys know,
that's
Bill
right.
Belichick knows what he's doing.
Brady. I was like, yep, that's right. That's right, Martin. Tom Brady, who left the New England Patriots and went to a team that has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, one top 15 offensive line in the NFL, probably top 10 based off of what's happened in the past couple of weeks, and got Rob Gronkowski out of retirement, got Cameron Brate, who was pretty good when he was playing, Ronald Jones Jr., got Leonard Fournette as a backup for him, got Keyshawn Vaughn as a backup for him, got who else we got? Oh, also a top 5 defense in the NFL. Totally Tom Brady, who really makes the change happen. Really. I just want y'all to like look at it in context for like one time in your life. Yeah. Like one time in your life, look at it in context, and see what the situation is. Maybe you'll learn something.
Final point.
Oh, and I'm sorry. Oh, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on a
like 4 or 5
third place schedule.
Yeah,
Martin, third place schedule.
Yeah. You gotta remember, it's fucking scheduling is crazy in NFL. I will put myself on the fucking. I'll walk the plank. Speaking of the Buccaneers, I'll put myself on the plank to say that the schedule means more than just about fucking anything else in the NFL these days. But since week 2, when Josh Allen was crowned the MVP of the season and everybody was fucking choking on his dick and just saying he was the second coming of every fucking great quarterback there is in the NFL. Ashton, these are his games. Tennessee lost 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 63.4 completion percentage. Then against the Chiefs, it got even worse. 122 yards, 51.9 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, an interception. And then against the lowly Jets, 307 yards, 69.8 completion percentage, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. It's just, I mean, it's getting worse to be. I mean,
At best, he's the low end of the dual threats.
yeah, it's. I
Like
mean,
out of all the dual threats in the NFL, he is a non-elite dual threat. He is the gatekeeper
yeah.
of the elite dual threats in the NFL. He's the bottom of the list because it's like all the other ones are whatever. We could talk about it
yeah.
some other time, man. Like it really like we could sit here and just like talk shit about him all we want, but like we're not even talking about shit about Josh Allen. We're talking shit about the people who like are ignoring the other people who are doing far better than Josh Allen.
Yep.
Right? Like that's my biggest thing. Where it's like the people who are like, people talk about Russell Wilson, but the people who are like talking about Lamar Jackson, the people who are talking about like Kyler Murray, the people who won't give any respect to Deshaun Watson, all that kind of stuff like that. And it's like this whole flurry of dudes that are before you even get to Josh Allen in terms of like success as an NFL player, as an NFL quarterback. So
he's going to be the next Joe Flacco, where some people think he's elite and other people can't believe that you would put Joe Flacco and elite in the same conversation. I think that's for me personally, that's the trajectory that Josh. If he leads him to a random ass fucking Super Bowl, it wouldn't surprise me. But I'm not going to fucking sit here and be like,
I call no Super Bowl random. But yeah. But yeah. Moving on to a even sadder game.
sad if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan. To me, I love this.
So I'll go here. Like Washington football team 25, Cowboys 3. You guys saw the game. They're both 2-5 now on the season. All I can say is wow, just wow. Washington got 2 dubs because Monday we found out that Coach Ron Rivera is either in remission or has finished his treatment and awaiting to hear if he is in remission. So very thankful that Ron Rivera is cancer is a constant battle right now. Doing all right, man. Doing good and did not miss a single game. We heard the story about how he, couldn't walk all that well during one of the games and went out there and did his thing, but has gotten the Washington football team in a position to get 2 wins, especially a big win over the Dallas Cowboys that Washington fans love to rub in Cowboys fans' faces because they are everywhere. And honestly, like at this point, Cowboys fans are just delusional.
Yeah.
It's been 25 years since they won a Super Bowl. It's been 2 decades. There's a whole generational gap between the Super Bowl championship Dallas Cowboys and like reality where we live right now. The Cowboys have scored 13 points, Martin, since Dakota Prescott was injured and taken out for the entire season. And it doesn't stop there, Martin. If Andy Dalton does not clear concussion protocol this week, the Dallas Cowboys will be starting Nathan Peterman's college backup because, Martin, in my 28 years of existence in life, I've never felt like the Dallas Cowboys have been America's team more than they are this year. They are taking L's from the top rope, from directions they didn't even know existed. And every time you think it's over, it gets worse. It somehow finds a hilarious way to get worse. Like your defensive coordinator putting Tabasco sauce in his eye during a press conference. Which, by the way, must suck ass. Also on Twitter, go follow James Dater. Works for SB Nation. He actually tried to answer the questions that they asked Mike Nolan after he put the Tabasco sauce in his eye by putting Tabasco sauce in both of his eyes. So go watch that video to make it worth something for him because he's doing the Lord's work. But yeah, I've never felt like the Dallas Cowboys have been more of America's team than this year that life has just been shitting on them. Like everything is going bad. And they have all these tools and they have all these pieces to be good, but they can't put it together. And it's more America than anything I've seen this entire year, Martin.
It's
also,
embarrassing.
how long are we gonna ignore that the Cowboys are very much in the driver's seat to get that old number one pick for the NFL draft?
Good luck.
The
beating
Jets the Jets got a lead right now, but number two pick in the draft, opportunity to get Justin Fields.
Wait, you're gonna take Justin Fields if you've got
the number 2 pick in the draft. You take Justin Fields and you don't look back.
Even though you've got Dakota Prescott, the guy that you think is like the second coming of fucking Jesus on the football field.
I don't make the decisions. The football gods do, bro. Anyway, I'm just saying. Just think about that as time grows near. Even if the Cowboys aren't thinking it, every single media source is going to talk about it until the pick is in. So it's going to be bad for everybody.
I don't know if you saw what Trevor Lawrence said. Somebody asked him like,
"Oh yeah, he's entertaining the concept of like not coming out."
Well, if the Jets get the first overall pick and I'm a junior, I'm going back. And they haven't fired Adam Gase. They haven't fired Adam Gase yet.
What you got to do is people have already you got to turn back. You got to look at your history, kids. You got to know where you come from. Know your history of New York quarterbacks that did not want to play somewhere else and forced their way to New York. Could Eli Manning the fuck out of this situation? Just saying. Yeah. Also, I don't know, man. Who knows where we'll be in 10 weeks, right? Like, who knows where the NFL is going to be in 10 weeks? Who knows what? Because at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence wins a national championship again this year, or like wins a national championship this year. That's all he needs, right? Like that's all he's even playing for this year, right? Just like everybody else in the country. But like he's the guy with the best chance to be able to pull it off. Anyway,
as of right now, I'm looking here, Ashton. The Cowboys would have the 8th overall pick in this year's draft.
Because they got 2 wins right now. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few teams below them with only 1 win and no wins. So they're still. I agree. I mean, it would be so Jerry Jones to like at the start of the season have everybody thinking you have high hopes for the Super Bowl, but really, in all actuality, you're actually tanking, and having every Cowboys fan buy into it. That's so on brand for Jerry Jones.
Also, side note, this goes with the Dolphins theory. Dolphins forcing Tua in so they can know whether or not they need to draft a quarterback with the Texans pick, and Josh Rosen him.
Yeah,
with Josh Rosen on their roster.
Yeah,
with Josh Rosen on their roster. He's like, Josh Rosen's over there looking at Tua. He's like, "Oh kid, I've seen this story before. It don't end well for you."
Yeah.
Sitting in the back corner, just with some cornets in his hand. He's like, "Better watch yourself, young blood. You end up like me."
Yeah.
Anyway.
Ashton, the Kyle Allen defenders got another game to put under their belt for this one.
God, don't. Yeah, congratulations, Kyle Allen. You were able to score 25 points against literally one of the worst defenses in the history of the NFL.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't. They want him to be average so bad.
Hey.
They want him to be average so bad.
Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson had his best game of his career. Shout out to him. 20 carries, 128 yards, and a touchdown.
I think they had 4 linebackers who were hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's fucking it.
Cowboys,
before we move on, the one bright spot for me this entire season, Ashton, as a Texans fan, is seeing how bad the Cowboys are and them being an absolute joke, because I and myself and others, or others and myself, knew how bad the Texans were going to be this year. My group chat up until probably I don't know when they hit the point where they gave up on the Super Bowl dream this year, but they were debating at one point.
The conversation has changed drastically.
But bro, they were debating where before the season started, where this Dallas Cowboys team would rank once they won the Super Bowl. Like that's where they were at the start of the season. And to see it like just crumble around them has been it's been fun to watch. I mean, I'm a Texans fan, yeah, sure, but this season I'm all in on the Cardinals, man. Like the Texans can do whatever the fuck they want. We know what they're gonna do week in and week out. So I'm more of a Cardinals fan right now than I am a Texans. I mean, not overall,
Treachery,
but
treachery,
hey,
treachery of the
I
highest
just
order.
want to cheer for a team that's got a fucking chance to win the Super Bowl, man. Anybody else to the Cowboys, come on board. Emmett Smith, he went to the Cardinals after the Cowboys. You can come on with me. We'll all go cheer for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyle Murray, he's from Texas. He owns AT&T Stadium as it is. The Cowboys are an embarrassment, Ashton. We move on to the next game. The Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals once again have a one-possession game between them, as this is the second time they've met this season. The Browns, again, beat the Bengals 37-34. Two of the Browns' wins this season have come against the Bengals, as I've said. Cincinnati 1-5-1 on the season. Joe Burrow continues to throw for 300 yards. I don't really have a lot to take away from this game, except for I think Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow are starting to figure out what works best for this terrible offensive line, and they're gonna the in the games where they have to play the Steelers and Ravens, they already know what's gonna happen. The game against the Browns, they've got a fucking chance because Joe Burrow is going to be that type of quarterback, I think, for the rest of his career. Like, and as long as the Bengals are bad, they'll be in games with the other bad teams. If they go up against a good team, they're going to get shit on. They lost at one point. Three of their offensive linemen got knocked out of the game at one point. I think two of them never came back. So they're off. If the worst offensive line in football is without two offensive linemen next week, good fucking luck. Cleveland Browns, they lose Odell for the year. Baker continues to be fucking Baker. Um, yeah, that's all I got for this game.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about this one, man. It's just, I mean, it's a bad team versus a decent team. And once again, guys, I really feel like we never really. So, Mark, tell me if I'm crazy on this one. We never did that transition period of being like shocked and amazed that the Browns were good this year, right? Or like that they're doing decently well. And maybe it's in part because it's a product of the schedule
Mm-hmm.
that they're playing right now. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think we ever pat the Browns on the back for going out there and winning games that a couple of years ago or like a few years ago we're kind of skeptical about them going out there and winning. And I get it; they played they played in theory the second worst team in the NFL, right? Despite the fact that Joe Burrow is immensely talented. But the fact of the matter is, they got 5 wins, dog. They went out there and they beat the Dallas Cowboys when they had Dak Prescott, and they did it in a fashion that was exciting. They went out there and they put up points on these cats, right? And I feel like we never really had that moment where we're just like, yo, man, shout out to the Browns, bro. Like I mean, because we immediately jump to the whole like, let's criticize them like they're a good team and they've been a good team for 15 years, and they were literally one of the worst teams in the history of the NFL for a long time. Like they literally were. They're 3 wins away from their best season in 10 years. You realize that, right?
Yeah, it's
Because they
wild.
haven't had a winning record.
Yeah.
They haven't had a winning record in a decade. They've had one winning record in 20 years. They're 3 wins away from it, and we're over here just like, man, Baker Mayfield sucks ass, bro. Like they're not good. They're all this kind of shit like that. Like it's like we skipped this whole phase because for a long time I thought like, man, it's gonna be so cool for Browns fans when the Browns are back because they've been fighting the hardest, right? Like they've taken the most heat out of the situation, and they don't have like a LeBron James type figure to drag them out of the gutter. They gotta find it the hard way, right? I just felt like they went out there and they beat the Bengals, and we're now at a point now, Martin, for the first time in like how many years where we're just like, I expect the Browns to win this game.
Yeah. Well, they've got
And it
four.
just got
They've got four more definite wins. They got the Texans, Jaguars, Giants, and Jets. So I mean,
the disrespect.
There's your above 500 record right there. I mean, you could lose. They could lose the rest of the game. I mean, they got the Eagles as well. Like Texans, Eagles, Jaguars, Giants, Jets. That's 5 wins. They could have a 10-win season just based off of their fucking schedule. And the fact
Which
that they
might be more than their last 3 seasons combined. I'm just kidding.
I mean, yeah, 2 of their wins so far have come against NFC East teams. Then 2 of them have come against the Bengals. So, I mean, the only game,
not really,
only
but
game I
I'm
give them
just
credit for is the Colts.
guys. Once again, you guys like we exist in a world now where we have expectations for the Browns. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just saying. We kind of skirt past that real quick so we can get to the whole criticizing them part. But go ahead, Mark. Move on to the next game, man.
Saints 27, Panthers 24. Ashton,
Super disappointed the Panthers didn't get this one, man.
Our Carolina Panthers, man. Like Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, come on, man. Like we talked.
He had him. He had him right.
Teddy
Martin. Let me finish this. Teddy Bridgewater had the Saints right where he wanted them.
Mm-hmm. He was even sitting on the bench next to Drew Brees and Tyson Hill at one point. Tyson Hill.
Oh god. It's just one of those. It's one of those games that they're a very talented team, and it shows because we came out here. We were like, they should win this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like and then while the game was going on, we were just like, yo, like this is very much in their possession at one point, and that's not what we thought about the Panthers last year, and that's not what we thought about the Panthers coming into this one. By the way, your boy Brian Burns, defensive end, who was told out of Florida State that he was too skinny. He also has like a dope celebration. He does the Spider-Man pose. So, but also Brian Burns, 4th rated defensive end in the NFL. 4th rated pass rusher in the NFL right now. Shout out to him. Speedster. Brian Burns. Also very much a race car driver named Brian Burns. Seems like a NASCAR kind of name. Anyway, he's killing it. He's killing the game right now. Panthers got kicked in a close one. And then it was in a divisional game too. Also, like, more skepticism for the Saints. But we'll talk about that some other time, right?
Yeah. I don't really have of all the games this weekend, I think this was the one I didn't see. Like, I just didn't really see anything. I don't even remember it being on the red zone. I mean, it was 24-24 heading into the 4th quarter. By the way, anybody else out there that watches the red zone and you know what the witching hour is? Week 7's witching hour? Holy shit. That was in fucking tense. The witching hour is just that time of the day when the early noon kickoff games are starting to get towards the end of their games, right before the late afternoon games kick off, and there's of course like 10 games going on, and 7 of them are within 1 score, or somebody's starting to come back in the 3rd quarter, and the 4th quarter is just a fucking score fest. I love the witching hour. It's one of my favorite parts of football Sunday, especially having the red zone. But man, the Panthers, every time we expect like them to do well, Ashton, they come out and, I mean, a 3-point game is nothing to be disappointed against, but maybe we should just go into each and every week just like trashing them and being like, oh, there's no way.
Right, they were winning when we said that they weren't going to win. Also, back-to-back games against legitimate teams, right? Like the Bears went out there and had a great defensive performance, and they still, like 2 weeks ago when they played the Bears, Martin, their last drive was to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they played the Saints, the same similar situation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's just how it goes sometimes, man. They're a team that's close, and they're a lot closer than I think a lot of people, including myself, thought they were going to be, because so many people who were like closer to the Panthers and everything like that kept saying about how bad their defense was. And I was like, don't look bad to me, man. Yeah. They went out there and they've held multiple teams under 21 points. My demarcation for good and bad defense is if you give up more than 28, because that means you gave up a touchdown every single quarter. Yep. And plus, if you're doing that, you're doing all right, especially in the NFL where every rule is centered against the sabotage of defensive players.
Hey, they beat the Cardinals 31-21 earlier in the season. Gotta remember that.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like that's a good team. That's a good football team, man. Respect the Cardinals. Most importantly, respect Teddy.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people. I mean, I feel like Teddy should win Comeback Player of the Year, bro.
Yeah, he's up. I mean, Alex Smith's probably gonna get it. I mean,
yeah, that's like the sucky part of it.
But yeah, I agree with you.
Which by the way, like Teddy Bridgewater probably gonna play an entire season.
True. If anybody listened to the Thursday episode, they remembered Ashton and I briefly talked about Eli Apple. He has now been cut by the Panthers. So
wow.
Yeah,
just like that.
he played 28 snaps all season. He had a lot of injuries this year. I'm looking at ESPN's like reporting on it. Apparently, he got hurt in practice, and the Panthers just like, all right, we're cutting you. Like, you
No,
provide
like
no value to our team, and you're getting
God,
injured.
that's rough.
Like that.
Also, I'm
That's
sure his mom was there yelling at the coaches too with her mask on. So you guys
uh,
remember that? Eli Apple's mom
yeah.
was like, Eli Apple's one of the Ohio State corners,
Hmm.
and during this draft process, they literally had to write notes about his mom is going to be a part of your team as well. So hopefully, you're going to be prepared for that. And I'm never against a mom looking out for her kid.
Yeah.
I will say that as a
Yep.
kid, as two guys who used to cover high school sports, we know there's variances of this, right? Like we know that there's parents who actually know the game a little bit, and we know that there's parents who don't say anything at all, and we know that there's parents who don't know anything and they say a lot,
Hmm.
and we know that there's parents who know a lot and don't say anything. So
Yeah, there's also a difference between the parents that are like living through their kid, and then the parents that just want to see the most success for their kid possible. And
right,
that's what a lot of
there's a
those
lot of
that's what those
there's a
moms
lot
are.
of shades, and they all typically get thrown in the same box.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because of the ones that yell the loudest get the most attention, LeVar Ball. But there's a lot of different types of parents in sports, and for the most part, except the exception of what Martin was talking about, the person living through their kid, they all just want what's best for their kid. And if you go into that situation knowing that, you can't be too mad at them because they're parents doing their job.
Next on the list, Ashton, we've got the Chargers and the Jaguars. 39-29, Los Angeles beats Jacksonville to improve to 2-4 on the season. Are the most controversial starting quarterback in the NFL simply because his other competition got his rib broken, got his first win of the season, Ashton, and it just so happened to come against the team that is tanking.
Air Bear out there doing his thing, man. Not much to say, man. We've already talked about this, right? We talked about this multiple times on this podcast. We don't need to keep reiterating it.
Yep.
The Jags, no matter how well Gardner Minshew plays, and
Yep.
for the most part, he plays pretty well. He got him 29 points in a game versus, which should be very concerning for Chargers fans, by the way. And I get it, Laviska Shenault is very good, and then Cole Jr. is doing pretty well too. But Laviska Shenault is like the breakout, like superstar rookie that they're all looking at and everything like that. And then James Robinson, undrafted free agent,
2
killing the game
touchdowns.
right now, man.
Yep.
Yeah, they're doing the damn thing, man. Despite what everybody around the team is trying to say about them, they're a problem. They really are. And for Justin to go out there and score almost 40 points, good to see them be able to pull away in a game for once. But once again, can't be too impressed when you beat the Jags, bro.
Yeah, exactly. There's different variations of tanking, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are like an entertaining tanking team, whereas like the Jets are just like unwatchable fucking garbage. Don't even tune in. Like like you want to talk about fucking ratings. The ratings for Jets games should be non-existent. The Jaguars at least make it fucking fun. And Gardner Minshew, like you said, I mean, it is what it is. He didn't have like an amazing game, but I mean, it's fucking. He's just trying his best to like get a contract somewhere else once they're probably going to be the Justin Fields team, to be honest. But once he moves on, he's just trying to get that backup contract, and maybe he'll end up in Dallas backing up whoever they have at quarterback. Next
I
on the
think
list,
Gardner's starter caliber kind of guy, but hey, what do I know?
maybe he might turn into like a Ryan Fitzpatrick or one of those like journeymen around the league. We'll keep the little rookie that they have on the sideline for a couple of weeks, and then randomly get benched after having one of the best like just continue like I don't know. The Ryan Fitzpatrick benching, I still haven't wrapped my head around. But next on the list, Ashton, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Las Vegas Raiders, Tom Brady and the Bucks 45, Derek Carr and the Raiders 20. The Raiders are now 3-3 on the season. Buccaneers 5-2. You already mentioned this a little while ago. The Buccaneers are on a bit of a winning streak, and they're kind of possibly the hottest team in the NFL right now.
I don't know if you know this or not, Martin, but the Buccaneers are pretty good at football.
Oh yeah.
Also, my confusion about the Raiders remains.
Yeah.
I do not understand at all.
Yeah. At one
At
point,
all.
it was kind of close. I mean, halftime it was only 21-10.
Yeah, that's the wild part. The Bucks scored 20 something points in the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane, dude. But once again, more confusion. Maybe they're just bad at finishing games, even though they finished a game against the one team that nobody else has been able to beat
Yeah.
except them this season. So maybe I need to get in that mindset of like that was a divisional game, and sometimes those don't make sense, and wild things happen in divisional games, and you need to take that game, throw it out because that's not indicative of what the team is going to do consistently. Maybe that'll help me a lot more mentally. But yeah, the Buccaneers are playing up to their talent level against a middle of the road type NFL team. That's what they did versus the Raiders. So you can't be like crazy impressed with the results of this game. But the fact of the matter is, they went out there and did what they were supposed to do. They're supposed to tune up a team like the Raiders, and they did.
Yep. First game of the season for the Bucks, of course. That was kind of like a learning game against the Saints that they lost. They've kind of dominated everybody else except the Bears, and I mean, some people think the Bears are the best defense in the NFL. So I mean,
I am one of those people.
Monday
Just
Night Football, they kind of got a little. I don't know what was going on Monday. I don't like that was one
by
of the
we
weird
mentioned it. We
games.
mentioned it before. Statistically, it is the Steelers.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
but my thing is my differentiator between those two defenses is that the Bears get the same level of coverage without having to blitz 50% of the time. They get that kind of coverage, that kind of pressure that the Steelers do with 3 or 4 man rushes, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, go ahead, man.
Next on the list, the 49ers went down up to Boston, took on the Patriots, 33-6. San Francisco improves to 4-3. New England is now 2-4 on the season. Ashton, um, you and I texted it. People on Twitter are noticing it. Something is wrong with Cam Newton, and it started with when he went out with COVID. Who knows if that is the reason? I think it's a shoulder injury. I don't think even in like if you give me the video of him against the Seahawks or Miami the first couple of weeks, give
That's
me
not
his
the same
throw.
dude.
No, it's not. Give me the throwing motion of those two games compared to what we've seen the past 2 weeks. Something is off with how he is throwing the ball. He won't. I've mentioned it earlier. He won't even throw the ball to his right. Like that is saying something. Like something is wrong, and the Patriots are going to continue to lose until they either sit him down or they figure out like I don't know. I mean, you're not going to
And
bench.
Martin,
Like I don't think he can be benched.
and ladies and gentlemen, don't forget the NFL is a business at its heart and at its core. No matter what, no matter how many nice stories you get, like Alex Smith going into a game and getting sacked 4 times by Aaron Donald, no matter how many beautiful stories you get about people getting helped and everything like that. Also, I'd like to point out we talked about the Jags last game. They had a running back who is now officially done for the season because he's been hospitalized twice from COVID-19.
Yeah.
So he is out for the year. And if you know anything about running backs, they're some of the most athletic dudes on the football field. So, yeah, hopefully he's going to be all right. And hopefully he fully recovers after this because it seems like he's having a real bad time with this situation. But other stuff, talking about the Patriots, man, this is a business, Martin. And this is a 1-year deal for Cam Newton.
Yep.
He ain't got no time to miss games. And if that means he got to go out there and play hurt, and everybody knows that he's playing hurt, and he's got to do what he's got to do, he's gonna do it. You know you can tell. And here's me. I don't know Cam Newton personally. All I know is from what I know about the way that he plays. If you can take anything from a dude that plays the game to administer punishment and to dice up defenses with his arm, do you think COVID-19, once he's cleared to play and allowed to play, is going to be something that he sits down and says, "No, I'm good. I need to recover"? Think about what happened last year when he played for the Carolina Panthers. It took him collapsing, his foot collapsing, his ankle collapsing, and as a matter of fact, it took him collapsing on Thursday Night Football versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? In a game where we know for a fact he would normally get that first down, but he could not push off of his ankle because of the injury that was in it. Also, we'll point out the following week he played the Patriots and tried to go in warmups, and they would not let him continue. Cam Newton is the kind of guy you have to stop.
Yep.
You have to stop him, or he will play until his legs fall off. And we see, and I keep saying this will same thing with Lane Johnson, the Eagles. Anybody who works for the Eagles staff, I'm sure they're medically, they're trying to let Lane go out there and work through his ankle injury. He keeps coming out like every 10 fucking plays, right,
Yeah.
Martin? We see this all the time.
Ridiculous.
Lane Johnson's the same way. You have to stop him. Jordan Reed's the same way. Almost every single one of these NFL players is the same way. You have to stop them or they will hurt themselves because that's the way that they've been trained. That's the way their mentality is formed, or how you play football.
Yep.
And somebody has to stop Cam Newton. He is in a desperate situation because he's on a 1-year deal. And even after this year is over, he's on a 1-year deal, and it's for the smallest amount of money you can make in the NFL as a vet. So he literally has nothing else after this. There's no other options for him after this. And that has to weigh into this situation, man. Even if he gets hurt, just like everybody, and then of course it doesn't help. It does not help that everybody else keeps saying that, all he does is get hurt.
Yeah.
So hopefully somebody helps him out, because he's not gonna stop until you do.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's unfortunate. This next game on the list, Ashton, I thought was a typo. I had to go and make sure that this was correct because I thought it was a close game.
No, so that was I was gonna say the first quarter of this game is very deceiving because it was back and forth, and then it was just fourth.
Yeah.
From the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And then it was just fourth from the Chiefs on this. They had multiple non-offensive touchdowns too. And a kick return and a pick six.
Because I was gonna say I don't even remember so Mahomes only had one touchdown. Edwards-Helaire had one touchdown. Chad Henne had a touchdown run.
Chad Henne. I haven't heard that name in a while. I bet you he missed Miami while he was freezing his ass off in that game.
Somebody, who was it? Big Cat. He tweeted out, or was it Big Cat? It was either Big Cat or Rich Eisen. What? Chad Henne and somebody else got a rushing touchdown, and it's like the longest
streak in between rushing touchdowns.
Who the fuck was the other? Who was the other quarterback? Fuck.
Probably Tom Brady.
No, it was who was a backup that got put in the game this week across the NFL.
A backup that got put into the game this week,
and they scored a rushing touchdown.
Let's go all the way through. Jaguars, Chargers. No. The Browns, Bengals. Wait. I think I know.
Maybe it was. Did Tom Brady get a rushing? It might have been Tom Brady. Let's see.
It may have been. No, not.
Oh, it was Tom Brady. Okay, it might have been actually Tom Brady and Chad Henne. So it was like the two Michigan quarterbacks from
Michigan.
From what? How do you say it?
No, Michigan. And you know that. You say it differently than everybody else does.
No, I don't. It's Michigan.
Oh, Martin, there's no way your friends don't tell you that. There's no way. Never mind.
Is Turkey?
Moving on.
Is Turkey or Frosty in the chat right now on twitch.tv/BrokeBoySports? Have I always said that wrong? The one that I used to always say incorrectly was the Falcon. I used to say
Falcons.
The Falcons. Yeah, I used to say the Falcons instead of the Falcons. But
Millennium Falcon.
I didn't know that I said Michigan wrong.
Yeah, it's Michigan, but it's not wrong. It's just a different pronunciation. Anyway, Denver Broncos. They got rolled because they can't keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs, just like everybody else in the NFL.
Surprise,
6-1 on this one. Drew Lock looked pretty bad in this one. Yeah, he had an interception that got ran back, and for everybody's hype that's about him, and you can tell from the score they didn't score after that. Also, Philip Lindsay out again. Melvin Gordon played in this game, by the way.
Yeah.
So I guess that suspension's not coming for a while. So,
which is weird. You thought you would think the NFL would aren't they normally out ahead of stuff like that?
Well, they used to do that thing where and maybe it's changed in the CBA. They used to have that power where they were like, "Yo, we can suspend you regardless of what happens in your legal case."
Yeah.
Because it's like the fact that you even got charged with it is conduct detrimental to the league or whatever, and that's kind of dumb because it's like you can get charged with pretty much anything, and then there be no legal case, or you get it thrown out, or it's dismissed, or you're found innocent and you got punished by missing game checks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Ashton,
they used to do that, and maybe they changed it up a little bit.
Can you name the leading receiver for the Denver Broncos this past week?
Tim Patrick.
Nope.
For the Denver Broncos?
Yeah.
Noah Fant.
Nope.
Jerry Jeudy.
Nope.
Who else do I know? Man, I don't know any other receivers.
His name is Albert Ogwugo. Bunam.
Okay.
Never heard of him.
Same. I need to do my research.
Apparently, it's his second game playing for them. He's a rookie out of Missouri. Fourth round draft pick, Albert Ogwugbanam.
Okay then. We're just gonna go with your first one because that sounded smooth. We're just gonna go with that one. We're gonna call it a day.
Yeah. But two more games to get to, Ashton, before we get to 10 things you don't want to know, unless you've got something else on this game.
Snow Angel Celebration never gets old.
Oh yeah, that was
never
a good
gets
one.
old.
All right, Monday Night Football game: Los Angeles Rams 24, Chicago Bears 10. For me, the only real takeaway from this game is Nick Foles is no longer Big Dick Nick. He is just Nick Foles.
We've talked about this, guys. We've talked about like he has a collection of like bad games, and then he has like some truly Hall of Fame level games. It's just that those Hall of Fame level games don't happen often enough. So it does not help that the Bears offense is not good. They have a porous example of what an offensive line is in the NFL, and it makes it difficult for, we actually will talk about this in 10 things you didn't want to know, for them to be able to run the ball consistently. And if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, the Bears are now a one-dimensional football team. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it's even worse because it's Allen Robinson and Jimmy Graham that are leading the one dimension and nobody else out there helping. But we'll talk about it a little
Anthony
bit
Miller
later
had
on,
a nice catch. I don't know if you saw that. Nice little one-handed grab.
Shout out to Anthony Miller, who just for coming back and playing football after his leg got completely destroyed that one time. Yep. So, but yeah, the big thing I took away from this, Martin, is in ESPN, progressive as they always are, and much to the chagrin of a lot of people, including Dr. Clay Travis, they centered this game around the excellence of two defensive players. Yeah. They focused a lot of this game talking about Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack, two of the best in the game. And I loved every single second of it.
Yeah.
Because
it was like breath of fresh air.
I've hated for so long that people try to pretend, like when they announce, they do it for regardless of how shitty your team is, right? Like when they do the promo for like, oh, it's Giants versus Eagles, when it really should be like, they're like, it's Carson Wentz taking on Daniel Jones and the upstart Giants, when it should really be like Carson Wentz takes on best tackler in the league, Blake Martinez, in an attempt to fight it out in the NFC East. You know what I mean? That happens all the time. And I was like, I'll be damned if I live in a country where we try to pretend that Jared Goff is more important than Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn. So that happened, and I was just like, yo, just do that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to pretend every quarterback is really good in the NFL. You can focus on their best player. Because one, like I've explained this concept before, right? Where like people talk about like, oh, we need big time teams in the NBA finals. I've mentioned this discussion in this example before, and I'll mention it again. You want as much variance as possible because you create more fans because they have more options of teams to root for. There's nothing worse than like everybody being an LA Lakers fan, right? That's great for the Lakers. It's bad for the league. And it's good for the league when you can highlight like dynamic running backs. Like they do it with Saquon Barkley when he was playing with the Giants all the time. They would supersede him over anybody else that was playing for the team, which is smart because like Saquon like do some crazy ass shit sometimes. But like when Jared Goff wasn't playing well, he was still on the marquee. Like he was the draw. And it's like, no, it's Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, buddy. Yeah. Like we needed that. Which, by the way, they could have done like so many. They could have been like Jalen Ramsey, Eddie Jackson. You know what I mean? Eddie Jackson Jr. That would have been so dope. But yeah, that was the thing that I liked the most about that. And then on top of that, when they did some crazy ass shit on defense, even if it didn't result in a sack, which a lot of the crazy shit that they did in that game resulted in a sack. They still showed it on the TV screen, which means it's on Twitter somewhere on D-Line videos or something like that. And that means I can go watch it back forever and ever, watching Khalil Mack use his one arm to throw entire grown-ass human beings that get paid millions of dollars to stop him from doing that. Anyway, that's all I got on that game, man. Other than the Rams were killing it. The Rams were moving the ball seamlessly, and they did it through multiple players. It wasn't just one guy. Like it was Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp had some good catches and everything like that. And Malcolm Brown is back apparently. Malcolm Brown's back. Got a touchdown. Yeah.
At one point, they really harped on the fact that Aaron Donald had never sacked Nick Foles, and it's like, how many times have they played each other? Like 3? Like,
Right.
well, I don't understand like why they kept talking, and like Lisa Salters even at the end like asked him like, what's it like getting a sack on Nick Foles? It's like, bro,
just like all the other guys.
It's like, what's so special about sacking Nick Foles? Like, I really don't understand why they kept bringing that up. And then eventually he got like credited with half a sack on it, and they were like,
yeah, because they sandwiched
shit.
together. Yeah, they sandwiched together. It was him and was it? God damn it, I forgot who it was. Because the guy on it was Aaron Donald was coming from came through the B gap and attacked off that, and then off of the left end, they collapsed the entire pocket like almost instantaneously, and they literally hit him at the same time. Other thing, somebody used Aaron Donald's jump chop, which is, if you know anything about defensive end moves or whatever, you literally like jump up in the air sideways to get leverage on the offensive lineman's hands, and then you swing your hands down like using the force of your jump into their hands, and it swats it down, and they got sack off of it. I just thought it was cool. Like I was like, oh man, that's that move that Aaron Donald does all the time. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, one last game to go, Ashton. 10 minutes before we go over the 2.5 hour mark. Not really a lot to say against this one. Eagles 22, Giants 21. I'm fucking pissed because I picked the Giants to win in an upset. They were doing it up until the fourth quarter. I even texted somebody and was like, holy shit, the Giants are doing it. I'm about to look like a fucking genius. And then the fourth quarter happened. Carson Wentz scored like 15 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, to start the fourth quarter, they were down 21-10, and the final score was 22-21.
Yeah.
So, by the way, they had 3 total touchdown drives. 2 of them were in the fourth quarter, and they were both under 2 minutes. So they went out there and they were on some bullet. They cooked it up pretty well. Too bad they can't do that throughout the entire course of the game. It would be astonishing to see the Eagles put together a full, complete football game, wouldn't it, Martin?
Yeah. Even with like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt playing wide receiver, and nobody knowing who the fuck their offensive lineman is outside of Johnson, and like.
It's funny you bring up a wide receiver. We'll talk about that as well. Don't get it confused. This was a game between 2 bad teams in the NFL. The Eagles defense created 3 turnovers to win by 1 point.
Yep. Of course, this one will be. This one will be.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, no, we're talking about the same thing. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the same thing. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah, I was gonna say this one will just be remembered by the 80-yard run. 2 bad teams. We said it would be a shit game on Thursday. Ashton even pleaded with our listeners to not watch this game because it was going to be that bad. It was that bad at times. And then at other times, it was at least watchable when you see Daniel Jones run 80 fucking yards down the field and stumble over nothing because he's going so fast, his body couldn't believe how fast he was running. Did you see that?
Martin,
the second fastest time in
yes.
It's
faster
ridiculous.
than Lamar Jackson. And Martin, I gotta say it. Maybe Daniel Jones should consider playing tight end.
Yeah.
Apparently he's fast. He's good with the ball in his hand, right?
He knows the offense.
This whole quarterback thing's not really working out all that well for him. Nope. And apparently he's faster than Lamar Jackson. And last time I checked, Lamar Jackson's pretty good for a running back at quarterback. So when are we gonna start seeing those tweets, Martin?
Yeah.
We're gonna start seeing those tweets. Daniel Jones to tight end. When are we gonna start seeing those tweets? But yeah, go ahead. Anyway,
that's all I've got.
Last one on Thursday Night Football. If you watched it, I watched it reluctantly.
I watched most of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I tell myself I'm not gonna do it all the time, and I'm like, but it's Thursday Night Football and there's nothing on. By the way, the NFL is about to get another big win because guess what, motherfuckers? In a couple games, the World Series is going to be over with, and there'll be nothing to watch but NFL football.
Yep.
So the team the league that has done the least in preparation for COVID-19 is about to get the biggest reward of being the only major sport that's on television Thursday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yep. Just how they
That's
like
how
it.
life works.
Yep. All right, Ashton.
That's how
That's
life
our
works.
Week 7 recap. Now we've got one last thing to do before we get out of here, and that is to go through the 10 things you didn't want to know about Week 7. Take it away, and then take us on out of here.
16 players have caught a pass from Carson Wentz, Martin, and we're in Week 7.
Nice.
Yeah, 16. So all those injuries really piling up, really showing itself. Carson Wentz doing everything that he can to hold on to some semblance of a pass offense. And this is a good one. This counts as 2. If you're counting at home, if I do 10, this counts as 2. The 2020 6-0 Steelers are the second team in Steelers franchise history to ever get to 6-0. The other one is the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers, who got to 7-0 before they got their first loss. They won the Super Bowl. The Steelers and the Titans are the 6th meeting of 5-0 teams in NFL history. The last 5 winners of those games have won the Super Bowl. The Pittsburgh Steelers won the 6th meeting of those. We'll see what happens. Just saying. All the stars are aligning.
That's why.
For
that reason right there
Russell,
is the main reason I picked them to win the Super Bowl. It's because I knew them and the Titans would be 5-0, and then I knew the Steelers would win.
It is foretold, and so it is foretold.
Yep.
From Martin. Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray led their teams in passing and rushing on Sunday Night Football. Yep. Fuck the concept of looks the part from scouts, by the way. So just a big fuck you, like 2 guys who are under 6'3", just dominating in the NFL in an elite fashion that a lot of people can't replicate. The NFC West.
Wait, hold on.
Has
sorry, go ahead. I saw on Twitter somebody said that Kyler Murray should donate half of his paycheck to Russell Wilson because without Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray wouldn't have gotten drafted number 1 overall.
Exactly. Russell Wilson paved the way.
Yep.
Russell Wilson paved the way. Michael Vick paved the way for him. It's just so much of
Steve Young so before obvious. All of them, and Doug Flutie.
Steve Young before all those guys. Doug Flutie. What is it? Doug Campbell. Doug Williams. I don't know why I said Doug Campbell. And Warren Moon. A lot of other black quarterbacks who had the ability to pass the ball.
Oh, I was talking about short players.
Oh, short kings. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Couldn't help you on that one. Doug Flutie, yes, who has a highly inappropriate nickname that is a slur for that group of people. Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray led their teams in rushing and pass yards. I already said that one. The NFC West has the 2nd highest win percentage in NFL history at 19-8 at this point of the season.
Yep.
The Bears have 4 games this season where they've rushed for under 65 yards. Each one of those games is the first time that's ever happened for the Bears. They literally have never had, before this year, a single game where they had not rushed for more than 65 yards. And now they've done it 4 times in one season.
Nice.
And moving on over here, I got some saved on my phone. I got to look them over here. Here we go. This one is about Jared Goff. Let's see. Jared Goff. We'll give him some credit here as soon as I find it real quick. Jared Goff basically was perfect outside of the pocket in the first half of the game. He went 5 for 5 and was able to dice up the Bears defense, which is pretty impressive. So Russell Wilson threw his 20th touchdown pass on his 174th pass attempt. That's the fewest pass attempts to a player's 20th pass touchdown of a season since 1991. Last guy to do it faster was Brent Favre. Yet another sign that Russell Wilson is one of the great ones among us. There's one in here about Kyler Murray and how he is one of 5 people to ever come back from down 10 plus in a certain situation. But anyway, Cam Newton reached 30,000 career passing yards today and has now become the first player in NFL history with 30,000 passing yards and 5,000 rushing yards. So even when things are going bad for Cam, things are going right. So, yeah.
I've got one for you, Ashton.
You're going to put in.
Kyler Murray is the first player in NFL history to throw for 350 plus yards and 3 touchdowns, while also rushing for 50 plus yards and a touchdown in a single game.
On some other shit. This one's a really good one here. and I'll finish off on this one. The Titans trailed the Steelers 27-7 in the third quarter, but they cut it down to 27-24, which would become the final score of that game. The Steelers have never lost a game they've led by 20 plus points.
Damn, really?
In their entire team history.
That's insane.
They are 212 0-1.
Oh, they tied a game.
Games they have led by. They tied a game after leading by 20 plus points. They have never lost a game that they've led by 20 plus points. Yeah, and what is it? The Titans, if they had come back and won the game when they were trailing 20 plus points all time, it most recently would have been 2006 when they trailed against the Giants. They trailed 21-0 and won 24-21. And on that note,
I got another Kyler Murray one real quick. Kyler Murray is the first player in NFL. Kyler Murray is the first player in NFL history to have a rushing and passing touchdown in 6 of the first 7 games of a season. Ashton, he is killing it. The Cardinals are killing it. The Seahawks are just as good, just 3 points worse. Can't wait till they play again later in the season. I was right. Ashton was wrong. Pat myself on the back. Choo-choo. We're all aboard. Ashton, if you want to get in on some prop action, go ahead and download Thrive Fantasy. It's right here on the bottom of the screen if you're watching on twitch.tv or the YouTube channel. Use the code BROKEBOY. Put $20 down. You get $20 back. Get in on some of the prop action this NFL season. That is me. Ashton, take us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's only a couple things that I need to say here before we get out of here. 1, wash your hands. 2, wash your ass. But most importantly, wash your entire body. Please do that. Wash your whole body for everybody's sake. But like Martin said, download the Thrive Fantasy app. Use promo code BROKEBOY. Get yourself $20 free if you put $20 in on the initial deposit. And the last thing that I'll say, stay home, Roger.